Welcome to Playing for Keeps, episode 16. I'm your host, Neil Orford. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. And I have with me tonight a poker pro. I would say he doesn't describe himself as a poker pro, but also a DFS shark and a DraftKings expert. His wins include a $100,000 NASCAR win on DraftKings, a $20,000 NHL win on Underdog, and a $10,000 college football win on FanDuel, among many other wins. Excited to be here with Michael Laake. You can find him on Twitter at ValueBettingML. Michael, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing excellent, Neil. I'm so glad to be here. It's always weird to talk about myself, like there's varying stages of ego chasing and various stages of, deciding how much and how little you want to play in the shadows versus play in public. And, tonight I decided it's going to be about me. So, brought out a couple drinks, we're going to have some fun. And, I like, if I have all this success and don't celebrate it occasionally, then like what is worth, what is it all worth, So
that's right.
I'm just glad to be able to sit back and talk about, all this random stuff I've been in.
Hell yeah. I mean, if you don't enjoy talking about yourself, I think drinks are the way to go. That is the way to get.
I did decide that I will probably be a little more goofy and open up a little. So anything to help the content.
How did I do with the pronunciation?
Oh, you nailed it. Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. He did show me phonetically how to spell it, but I just want to make sure that I didn't get
excellent. No, and obviously it doesn't pronounce anything like it looks. And, my last name, Laake it's not intuitive, but in a way it's like the first like encryption that I was introduced to, where it's like, if they knew the word, then they pronounced it right and they knew who I was. But if they didn't, then it was like clearly not. Right. So it was like, right. An early telemarketing filter and such.
Yeah. Nice. Perfect. So I described you as a poker pro, and I realized that you had never described yourself as a poker pro to me. But as I was like looking you up, I was like, you seem to fit the bill of a poker pro. Is that a correct description?
What is a professional player, right? And that same thing applies to every category that we're going to talk about. Many sports categories.
Yeah.
Poker was never my only source of income. It was a primary one for a long time. And, I had lots of success, lots of swings. Obviously, anything you were able to find in, on Hendon Mob or wherever the results were, that doesn't include the weekends where you're losing 5K and you're traveling across the country. And, that's if you behave yourself and stay out of the casino pits and, you don't have bad habits in sports. Like, honestly, in poker, the number one lesson I learned was sports are bad. There's a 10% VIG. You're laying 11 to win 10. It's a sucker bet. NFL markets are efficient. Don't be the fish. Like, I stayed away from sports for a very long time. To me, it was like, okay, well, rake is one of the biggest factors in poker. It changes your decisions a lot. So, how was I going to, beating minus 110 it's not 50-50. It's like 55-45. So you can't just be winning at small edges. You have to have a 10% edge just to break even. So, a lot of these realizations, they took a lot of time for me to say like, okay, no, I actually have some real edges in different things that I've come across, and leveraging that in different ways in sports has always been, a battle that, every day is a new challenge. But those are some of the ways that, I've gone into it.
Nice. All right. Well, I want to get we'll probably take a step backward to talk about your full background here. But first, I just want to start with where are you from? Where are you now, to the extent you want to share? And any favorite athletes or teams? Sometimes that's related, sometimes it's not. But just to get to know you a little bit better.
Sure. So I don't believe in fandom traditional sports like, ETR bros, they'll say laundry bros kind of thing. I always enjoyed that description. I have no teams. I followed players. It's funny, like being a 90s kid and versus the current generation, like my sports fandom started based on what cable channels I had. So you were a Chicago sports fan if you had WGN. You had if you had TNT, you had some Atlanta sports networks. Otherwise, you had your local teams. And in Florida, there weren't a ton of success stories. I mean, obviously we have a few franchises and a few different things, but a lot of, kind of low-level franchises. So, it was easy for me getting into the basics of fantasy football, like traditional, original old school, friend leagues, because like I didn't care about I cared about the players. I thought that was way more interesting. So, from an, very early age, getting into that, understanding, the differences of that, not letting biases affect your decision making. Your further question said, did I have any favorite teams? No. Was there more to the question? I'm sorry, I might have glossed over.
Favorite teams, favorite athletes, where you live now and where you're from.
Yeah, so I've been in Florida almost all my life, various parts up and down the coast. I'm mostly in the Tampa area, so I did a little bit of college in this area. I broke into some of the poker world in this area. But mostly the Gulf side, the west coast of Florida, I've been up and down. And then I did spend, I always joke, it's I moved to Miami like a month before LeBron signed the decision.
Oh, wow.
And then I left like right before, or right at the same time he left, whatever. So like I went to the very first preseason Heat game where LeBron was on the team, but I didn't go to any games after that. And I was just in that area for like the LeBron time. So like I was in the Miami area for that, and mostly on the Tampa side for most of the rest of my life.
You say that you like athletes, like you're a fan of athletes, not teams. Would you consider yourself like a real fan of any athletes, or is it just like I cheer for the athletes that are on my fantasy teams?
I guess LeBron is the closest example where, I like greatness. I respect greatness. So I was never a Patriots guy, but I kind of had to be at some point because I'm like, God damn, they're so good. Is it Brady? Is it Belichick? Who knows? Who cares? Like, yeah, it's literally the combination is the magic, right? So I always like dynasties are so difficult when you think about, what the Chiefs have done in recent years, like getting to the conference final so many times in a row. That's so difficult. The odds are so stacked against you to do that. I find all that impressive. So, when I watch LeBron, I would say he's greater than Jordan. Everyone's got their own opinion there, but like when I watch him, I just see somebody that was obviously not, I didn't really watch the Olympics. I heard he was a little impressive there, but obviously he's a shell of himself, but he's doing it. He's older than I am. I'm 38. I can't even get out of bed in the morning sometimes. And like, I didn't do anything the night before. Right. Yeah. So to watch him be able to do what he can do I just find that so impressive. Like, how do you not love it?
Yeah. LeBron is insane. As somebody who is, I'm almost 41. I feel like LeBron is my age, might be a year younger. I don't know. Yeah. We're about the same age, and LeBron is right here. And I cannot imagine how he does what he does.
I mean, I love Ohtani. I got obsessed with, baseball analytics, Ohtani's rookie year. I do a lot of, I ended up working a lot with Cardi behind the scenes on some baseball stuff. And I introduced him to some excellent engineers that I had worked with at different times. And, we named, my buddy and I named our side company, Shohei Can You See? Because it's a play on the, the national anthem, but his rookie year was so dynamite. He came to Tampa when he was on the Angels. And I remember I sat, somewhat close to home plate, and he just looked like a different human compared to every other baseball. Like, he's 6'6", built like a tank, and is like 4 inches taller than every other player on the team. But like, it doesn't translate that well when you watch a pitcher and a catcher and an umpire. But when you're like watching warm-ups and guys are chatting, between innings, you're like, that guy's a monster. Holy crap. So I find Ohtani to be like, what he's doing on both sides of the plate is the most impressive things in sports I can remember in a long time.
I had no idea that Shohei was 6'6". I would have guessed that he was
massive.
Like 6'1",
you would have no if you watch. Yeah, he looks like a normal dude. 6'2" is exactly what I thought. He looks like LeBron James. Like, he would look LeBron eye to eye. It's absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, I got to say, you're talking about loving like dynasties, and I'm remembering a comedian. A friend sent me there's a bit. I think an Australian comedian does a bit where he asks the audience, do you like underdogs? And then he says, I hate them, and goes into why he loves dynasties. He hates underdogs. And you just reminded me of that. I wish I could remember the name of this.
I love a good clip after the show. You gotta
I'll find it and send
it
to you for sure. Yeah, it's really good. What's up, Jewish McCaffrey, Ian, and of course Nez in chat. I got to shout out Nez because I think Nez brought your attention to the show when last week or whatever, I think last episode at least, Nez gave you a call out on his
big
Mount
shout
Rushmore.
out to Nez. That was moderately undeserving but very appreciated. I put in a lot of work. It's crazy to hear a peer acknowledge it, right? So shout out to Nez, much love, appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I it seems like it was pretty well deserved just based on all of your wins. But yeah, hello Nez, good to see you. Let's talk about what you do now for a living, and then we'll work backwards.
Sure.
We'll go back to like how we got to where we are. Is this like your full-time job? Is fantasy sports, the fantasy sports sphere, your full-time job at this point? Are you still playing poker? What are you doing these days?
Unfortunately, the government sure thinks so. So I gotta, I don't have a choice in this year, making it an unfortunately large part of what's going on. So, I struggle with all that. Like, I make winning bets as often as I can every day based on every opportunity weighted against each other. So sometimes that means Friday night go and play cards with, people after work. Sometimes that's, 9 a.m. updating my ranks for Underdog baseball day slate, like today. And sometimes that's the 11 a.m. WNBA slates. And I don't know, like, the thing about daily is that you miss a slate, you're not behind, right? You're behind. You could be behind if you didn't pay attention or if there was something that happened, but losing FOMO is like the number one thing that like brings me happiness in gambling. Yeah. Like I don't miss a tournament, like separating myself from poker, right? There's amazing tournaments that go on all over the place. The World Series just happened, which is a, 7-week event of all massive high stakes buy-ins. Every summer for years, I would spend at least a couple weeks out there, just battling the highest stakes I could play and just doing, leaving it all out there year after year. And, that stuff gets old, man. It's like all of it is a grind. So what are the best opportunities, right? And, oftentimes I translate it into hourly rate. Okay, if I can beat a poker game for a certain hourly rate, then most likely I'm going to win a certain amount of money over the certain amount of time. Obviously, that doesn't, just like in baseball projections, right? My median projection has little impact on what the actual result of that day is, right? Sometimes I hit the home run, sometimes I strike out 3 times, but that's poker, that's baseball, that's everything, right? So, I think that I'm winning without overlay in a lot of the underdog stuff. And I think I'm winning with overlay in a lot of FanDuel and DraftKings stuff. So sometimes that means there's no opportunities and I have lineups ready to play. And that means I sit out a slate and I don't care about that. Right. Like, the $500 NASCAR tournament that I just got really lucky and banked. Shout out SaberSim and shout out Stevie on Roto Grinders because I just combined the two and magic happened, right? Yes. I did a little stuff here and there to diversify the lineups, but I did very little. I couldn't even tell you any of the drivers that were in that winning lineup. I don't remember.
You don't remember?
It was just I couldn't. If you offered me $1,000 free roll to name a single driver in that lineup, I couldn't tell you who it was. Obviously, it was the biggest night I had in sports. I've had almost as big a day in poker, not quite, but very similar. But that was almost 10 years ago. I don't watch most of the baseball slates I bet on. What are the results? They're kind of just, they are what they are. I don't like, if there's something to learn, then I watch. If there's not, then it's just like, that's not the appealing part to me. It's the opportunity versus strategy versus the ROI versus this, that, and the other, and just weighted against each other.
Do you know who Cubs pitcher Justin Steele is?
Yes.
Okay. He's in chat. What's up, Justin?
Wow, Justin, what's up?
If it says if Laporta or McBride isn't drafted, then what are we even doing? This is not a draft stream. This is the rare stream that I do that is not actually a live draft. Good to see you, Justin. Justin is a bully tight end guy all the way. Loves his Laporta McBride stacks. So there's a little intel if you ever draft against him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I could be team pro bully tight end for sure. All you need to do is add Hawkinson at the end of that one, and you're fucking set.
Hawkinson add on to Laporta and McBride.
Sure, let's go, buddy. All three.
You run three tight ends. That's all right. That's
you can play one of the flags. You're not. They're all three not going to score 2 touchdowns, right? How bad can it be?
Yeah. That's a lot to spend.
We can get into best ball stuff. I don't mind getting wild, and obviously that's a massive extreme, and it's only going to be in a couple lineups. I looked. I have 740 drafts done already. That's a lot, but we're grinding.
You've done 740 best ball drafts already?
Yes, underdog only.
I don't feel like I've drafted against you like at all. That's kind of nuts that I maybe we've drafted against each other.
Do you draft fast drafts?
I do both. I do a ton of both.
I do very few fast drafts.
Oh, you're a slow draft guy. Okay.
Mostly slow drafting. My life's so busy. As you know, you said to me, how do I have time for all this? I have no idea. No, every day I wake up and just find time for whatever I can and just hope for the best.
Yeah. That's I'm probably in 30 slow drafts right now. So not like your volume where you're getting to 700, whatever already. But I am.
I did slow down a little bit. I was on the clock at like 90 times in the morning and like, it was getting way too much. My wife was just like, come on, man, let's go to bed. I'm like, I have another hour of drafts to finish. She's like, okay, good night. So
yeah,
I probably have 80 slow drafts going right now.
Okay.
But that right now is the wildest time I've ever been in the slow draft streets because I literally have college football, hockey, NBA, all sorts of NFL variants. It's all live right now in slow drafts. So like it's my brain. I don't know. Like even I found NFL, even going from weekly winners to eliminator to best ball mania, my brain does a little bit of a recalibrate because I obviously there's different thought processes, different edges to be found, different ways to, find exploitations. But when you add like a college football, you're just like, oh man, like I don't know any of these guys at all. I have ranks that I found somewhere. I have game theory. Fuck it, let's go. Right. So in a way, like new formats, I just get excited about that. It's a game, right? We're playing a game. I can figure out the rules. Let's go.
And that is where the biggest edge is typically is like the newer the game, the more edge you can find in those games. I'm the same way in general. Although, as we discussed a little bit in DM, sounds like you are a little bit more of a grinder than I am. Like I will grind those edges, but like if it's a sport that I don't know, or if it's like a gaming kind of thing, I'm like, there's probably edge to be had there. Like I'm sure there is, but like I know nothing about this. I don't want to start from the ground. Whereas I gather you're probably the type who is willing to just be like, I have no idea what's going on here, but I'm going to figure it out.
100% all in. Like if we could do a live underdog format where nobody knows the rules until they get turned face up right before the contest starts, I would be in for that so fast for any amount. Nice. I guess like learning on the fly, making adjustments, even like, the reason I love slow drafts, and I get people punt fast drafts. I punt fast drafts because I have, some form of ADD. I'm easily distracted. So I love the slow drafts because I don't think people put as much thought into each pick as I do. And at the end of the day, I'm scraping micro edges on things, but I don't know. If 740 drafts, micro edges add up, right? Even really small ROIs compound pretty quickly and variance gets sorted out in an interesting way. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. When you just get in a ton of volume, having those micro edges, like you should realize that over time. And yeah, it's we'll get into to best ball strategy and stuff. The daily games. I wasn't planning on talking best ball with you. Because I haven't seen you in my drafts, I kind of thought you were more of just like a daily draft guy. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like you are even more.
I put in pretty good ball. I had I think a $6,000 weekly winners cash last year. One of the weeks, CD Lamb went nuts. I forget which one exactly, but it was a fun Dallas onslaught team. But I love all the NFL stuff. But NFL's highest variance and, biggest prize pools. And like, sometimes, the winning those tournaments are just difficult for that reason.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk process, strategy, all that kind of stuff. But first, let's take a step back to, what kind of background do you have? So, I like to ask someone, I guess, what kind of background do you have in statistics? What kind of background do you have in computer programming background and or training? And do you have formal training? Did you train yourself? Tell me about your kind of backgrounds there.
Sure. I think computers were really early introduction to me. I'm pushing 40 here pretty soon in a year and a half. My second job was at a computer repair shop, tinkering with stuff and fixing things. I briefly went to college for computer science. I really wish I had stuck out with that, but unfortunately I got the poker bug. So I dropped out after my freshman year, got into poker full time, spent most of my time split between dealing in casinos, playing in like the games from 2004 to 2011 in online poker were as good or better than the amount of action on DraftKings and FanDuel at any point in the history of the product. The action was just so amazing all over the place. We got shut down by a online banking act that made everything. The Department of Justice seized full tilt.
You talking about Black Friday?
Yes, Black Friday. So I wasn't sure how familiar the term is and all that. So Black Friday happened. I had a $32,000 online poker score that week. I had got most of it cashed out already. Yes. I got very lucky. Other people not so lucky. But so I got into statistics and databases in poker very early. So it's interesting now where Underdog's kind of facing a heads-up display situation where in poker we were using heads-up displays very early. 2007, I want to say, is like my first downloads of these products where, we were scraping hands. Our opponents were playing, getting data such as how frequently they played pots, how frequently they were the re-raiser in pots, how frequently they played certain streets, what their aggression factor was like. And basically just like had a full panel of data that you could click on a name and expand it and like, oh, what are the ways to play better against this guy? And you just had it all available, right? So, we were studying databases and understanding trends and tendencies. And up until like during COVID, it got to the point where, I was working with a high stakes coaching group called Poker Detox. And, they had a 300 million hand database that they were using AI to, learn from the opponent's tendencies. And I describe it a lot like martial arts, right? They were training me on strikes and types of bluffs and, dynamics of boards and all the hands that are good and bad to do with, all the really advanced stuff. But it is just really fancy computer science and data science and, how easy can you access that information in a clean and simple way? Well, poker is going through a huge situation right now where I'm not sure if you watched the $10,000 final table that just happened where the kid won $10 million, but on the rail, they were literally running sims and they had a laptop open.
I saw some of that. Yeah.
So that's a buddy of mine that I've, he's more than an acquaintance, but not quite a friend. It's Jonathan Tamayo. And he's doing nothing wrong. He wasn't doing anything that hasn't been done for years, but he's a little nerdier than other past professional winners. He's a little easier to pick on than other players that have been in that spot. And, everybody's piling on him saying he's bad for the game and that this is ruining poker. And like, I equate it more to like a wide receiver going to check the playbook between plays and trying to understand the routes he's trying to run. Like, the guy was just bringing his A game, playing, a $10 million match. Like, why wouldn't you? So all this stuff is wild to me. So, that's where, I did go into some side stuff with, I told you I hired some engineers that I ended up connecting Derek Hardy. All that was during COVID. A buddy of mine, kind of was curious about what I was doing. I was kind of curious about taking things a little more seriously. So we ended up kind of working together where, I would describe my problems. He would build the solutions. We would work together. He'd put up some money. I put up some money. You know, we'd tackle the sports books. We tackled DFS. You know, we did a lot of those things. And he was just such a brilliant engineer that he really opened my eyes to like how neat you can build tools to accomplish goals. I mean, I have stories for days on just that subject alone.
So it sounds like you're sort of a mix. Like you do have some computer programming training yourself because you went to school for a little while, but then
I'm very aware of my limitations though, and I have no problem seeking people that are way smarter than me on those subjects. Like I always called myself the game theorist in those conversations. I was never the engineer there. I was the guy that, okay, what do we do with this data now that we have it? How do we find an edge? What is noise versus what is actually useful out of this data, right? That's a never-ending battle.
Yeah. I assume that Chris Holland says, sorry, Mike, missed the first 30 minutes. An attorney at Maryland Live and lost track of time. I assume this is one of your friends.
He is a very, very close friend. I like Chris a lot. Thank you for tuning in, buddy.
Nice. I'll give a quick shout out since we were talking about the $10 million winner. He's going to be on Lowe's tomorrow. So for those of you who are fans of Lowe's or are not familiar with Lowe's, go check out Pete Overzet's channel. I was on.
He's driver's seat eye. We've all played with him in DFS. He plays a ton of it. I swapped with him this year in I think it was like a $2,500 MLB. I had 5 tickets and he had 4 tickets or something like that. So I messaged him. And we ended up getting a swap off, and we both breaked whatever it happens. But like, I swapped with him for a large amount of money early this year.
You should have swapped with him at the World Series.
I just picked the wrong fucking $10,000 tournament to swap with him.
That sucks.
But I'm so happy for him. And like, I honestly I get passionate that like I hate that he's going through this because he doesn't deserve it. He's as worthy of a champion as anybody that's ever been crowned. And I just wish that this noise would go away. Like the world's so caught up in, you know, a scandal and a clickbait story. And like, that's the cringe that I can't get behind. You know, Doug Poker's one of the poker's biggest media accounts. He'll just do anything for clicks. And like any of these like toxic stories, he'll give them all the time in the world to get aired out. And like, that's all net negative to me, right? It's taken away from the industry.
Yeah, that has been. I'm familiar with Doug Polk, even as a non-poker guy, because I see him in those controversies all the time, getting into seemingly dumb fights.
He's insanely rich, insanely successful. He has absolutely no business. Like he doesn't need any of this, right? Yeah. It's just he does it for fun, and like that makes it worse to me.
Yeah. That's weird. All right. So do you, in playing these draft games, so getting now into, actually, I'm going to save the strategy stuff and process stuff. So tell me about, so your professional background prior to getting into sports stuff was basically poker, really? Like
all poker, you were doing, it's, you know, because working in casinos, traveling for casinos, you know, a couple sponsorships here and there, but played on TV a few times, you know, just really tried my best to make that work. Had a few great years, had a few not so great years, but like made an amount of money that I did a lot of cool shit and lived okay for quite a while, right? And like I don't have a ton to say for it, but I wouldn't change much about most of it.
Yeah, and that's a pretty cool way to make your living. And you're continuing now to crush in the fantasy sports realm. Are you still playing poker like with the same frequency as you had been?
Not the same frequency, but like to me, it's a smaller part of the portfolio than it's probably ever been. I take coaching way more seriously than I take playing these days, and it's certainly not for the money because there's not a lot of money in coaching, and the money is just to make sure that they care to keep it up on there. And if I'm being honest, but I don't know, man, something about like helping someone find the breakthroughs. I enjoy that more than myself at this point. Cause I've reached the level of mastery in a lot of these games where there's very few avenues I've left to explore, but taking somebody else from one level to the next level, I found to be way more satisfying than like winning myself. And, you know, maybe that's because I have a daughter and she's getting older and I'm, you know, she's getting into volleyball and I'm pushing her. It's like, it's kind of the same thing. But that's a little more of a passion. Like I still play regularly. I did go to Vegas. I played high stakes cash games rather than more tournaments this year. And I had so much more fun. I enjoyed myself. Like tournaments are just like DFS tournaments. They're very top heavy. They're very stressful. Most of the time you don't win. You can't necessarily fire 150 entries because it doesn't work like that. So you gotta gruel out every entry one at a time and die, and then you get back in line and do it again, right? So I don't need to chase the glory. Like the ego is kind of at an all-time low. And that's where the FOMO, the same conversation I was talking about earlier, like I'm just so satisfied in life having zero FOMO about anything.
I feel like maybe that's an aging thing because I sort of feel like the same. Like 5 years ago, if I ever missed a DFS slate, like it ate at me, and I felt like I was going to win that slate. Like I would have won that slate if I played it. And now it's like I just take months off of DFS sometimes, and it feels good to not feel that like in the back of my head, like I need to be playing DFS.
And so when you ask me if I'm a pro, right? Well, pros can't take days off. Pros have to work through downswings. Pros don't have options. They don't have flexibility. I need flexibility. I can take it or leave it. It's, some of this is like understanding what's addiction and what's not, right? If I'm being honest. And I've never really had this problem. I know a lot of people do, and I try to be very careful and sensitive of that. But, am I just an addict at Underdog or am I just good? I think it's that I'm good and that, okay, I'm scheduling my life around every detail because I'm just profitable and it's fun, and okay, it's not obsessive and it's not this, that, and the other. I just try to keep that balance. I keep that perspective, right?
Right.
It can be hard at times.
You do it because you can make money at it and you want to make money at these games, not because you're just like you feel the need to play. It's more just like, why wouldn't I play if I can?
I remind myself though, I try to check in with myself. Like if I miss this slate, would I be like sour about it? No, of course not. Okay. All right. It's like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Let's go back. So you're a poker player. How did you get into DFS and Underdog games and best ball? Like what led you to, or fantasy sports to begin with? What led you down into this path?
Funny story. Are you familiar with Sammy Knoll?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay. So Matt Smith has been a friend of mine for a very long time. I was, when he won the very first Millionaire Maker, that was an NFL slate that had Sunday into Monday. So there was a buddy of mine, Brian Hastings, had like a top 5 team in that tournament, and Sammy Knoll was in the lead, but Hastings had like a defense left or something. They had some kind of deal. So they ended up making like I have a recollection of a pretty large equity swap where I want to say 6 figures changed hands in this exchange, where the one guy's defense didn't catch him, but had a real good shot to. That was like, I still kind of thought it like was gambling a little bit at that point. And obviously GPPs are gambling to a larger extent, but I hadn't realized the edge quite then. I definitely remember hand building lineups for 150 contests for several weeks in a row. I remember I used to, this is going to sound so awful, but I'm sure you could relate to some degree, but I would like, I don't even know if it was a spreadsheet. It might have been like a Google Sheets, and that was as sophisticated as I got. But I think I took like every QB and lined him across the top like 3 times, and then I just laid every defense across the bottom. Like, so I tried to like combine every combo of defense and quarterback or something, and I was like, oh, well, one of these will be right, and then I'll just try to get the rest right. So it's like such a silly way to build, but like, what else did you know at the time? You're trying to crack a Rubik's Cube you'd never picked up before. So I wasn't price sensitive to anything. I wasn't, I was certainly like, I certainly understood ranks at that point, and I guess like maybe that was probably where most of the field was only at.
Yeah.
But early DFS was not good. I definitely took a few years off, and then I'm trying to really remember how I got back into it.
So that must have been like 2013, like a while.
That was super early. That was the early. That was, I want to say 14 or 15 makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, that could be. when they started having like milli makers, might have been around there. I don't know if they had milli makers in those.
Yeah, I think it was it was a $20 at the time, and yeah, that's when, or 25 maybe, but yeah, that's what started when they started really having like some serious prize pools that they were jamming in there.
Okay,
definitely dumped for a while early on. It just fucking dumped, and like, listen, like, you know, you got to have a little bit of ego to dump, but to stay in the game, you got to keep trying to figure it out, right? So learning on the fly is the best way to learn, in my opinion. And sometimes you got to get in there and get messy. Like, I could have done it at smaller stakes, obviously.
Yeah.
But it needed to hurt a little. That's the unfortunate part of gambling. If it doesn't hurt a little bit, then it's not very fun. And
you sound just like me. Like learning on the fly. I'm very much a hands-on learner. Like, it's the only way I can learn. If I don't like try it, I'm probably not going to learn. I need to learn by doing stuff.
Well, you need to get in those edge cases of, okay, well, oh, that was a consequence of that decision. Okay, well, now let's back it up. And what could we have prevented from being in this spot? It's just like levels upon levels of the game.
Yeah. So you get in around 2015. You years off, and you come back in 2017, 18. You get back into DFS. What drew you back in? Just I mean, at that point, probably a lot of the people who you're playing poker with are also playing DFS, I would imagine. Was that what got you back in? I think
it was probably just generic overlay hunting, if I'm being honest. Like, that's always an edge that, like, no matter how bad I was, even if I knew I was a minus 20% ROI player, if the contest was half full, I didn't care, right? It could be all the McLovins of the world, and, you know, they don't have that big edge on me.
No,
I was hoping, right? Maybe they did, and I was just ignorant. But I even now, I don't feel like they do. So, you know, I'm happy to battle the best of the world in, you know, random overlay satellites, and that's how I won that NASCAR contest. I didn't put up $300, $500 entries into a NASCAR contest. Are you crazy? I just won the satellites in NBA and MLB that were like half full. It was some kind of like $23 contest where it was supposed to have, you know, 25 players, and like 12 showed up, and I was one of the 12, and I said, fuck it, let's play. Like, how bad could it? I don't think I'm going to be that big a dog in either of these contests, and let's go. Let's see what happens.
Are you, I think you might have told me this in DM, and I'm just remembering, are you a satellite player? Like, do you go after those?
Almost strictly. I almost filter by satellite first to see how much I'm playing.
Yep.
I could care less if the contest has any cash payout. Could care less. You know, so let's, you know, for years I would win satellites to like the FanDuel $15 150 max, right?
Yep.
I'd fire 150 and I'd, you know, cash for $520, and like, okay, I'd lose, right? Because you're trying to win 44,000th place, you know, first out of 44,000 or whatever it is, right? That's so difficult. I don't care how many bullets you're firing. Getting the nut lineup in insanely huge fields is extremely difficult. You have to get everything right. There's no room for error. Like, and I'd rather not get it perfect. I'd rather win a 700 player field where I had mostly the nut lineup, and that was good enough, right? You know, the lineup that I did play ended up also chopping the milli maker. My buddy played it in the milli maker so he could sweat the lineups. He chopped it for 500,000, and he got that payout, and I got 100K. But again, I could have stuck my $25 lineup in the milli maker, but why the fuck would I add a $25 contest when I'm in a $500 contest that pays 100K to first out of 700, and then I would also try to get 22,000th play, you know, first out of 20 something thousand. Like, okay, that's another parlay that is not realistic. It's not. It doesn't. There's no FOMO to me there. Like, that wasn't a strategically sound decision for the same lineup. You know, I could have played different lineups, I think, but to me, that would have been overkill. I'd have won too much, right? You know, we could get into all sorts of, you know, lineup distribution discussions, but when I see a single lineup played in like 30 contests, I just laugh. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, you want to win everything? Okay, like, that's just like going to happen one in a zillion years. That's not really how any of this works.
Yeah, that is definitely a lot of people do it that way. I've never been one to play the same 150 in multiple contests either. But yeah,
I would just build 300 lineups and like play a different, you know, or focus on a different, you know, pivot point or whatever.
Yeah, but I guess it's a matter of risk tolerance and how much time you have. I understand why people do it. I just I
disagree with that as well.
Yeah. So you in playing these games, do you create your own projections from scratch in any of the games you play?
Certainly a couple games end up with a customized projection based on some weighted projections from other systems.
Okay.
Combining a couple or doing, using something from another.
Not from scratch, but you use projections that are publicly
No,
available and you
I
alter them.
mostly use publicly available projections. But even like once you're there, there's so much process that goes in that it's like I don't originate anything for sure. I tried to get in the ETR crew for NBA projections. It was such a thing I was excited about. I interviewed with Dink. It went pretty smooth, I thought, but they probably just had a better candidate. And like I've done enough with NBA that I would have no problem building minutes projections and digging into usage rates and on off rates with with guys. How they combine on the court on off with certain players, yada yada. That's like somewhat natural. Maybe it's because I've soaked in enough content that I do it sometimes on my own when making decisions, but I still mostly use public available projections.
Okay. And then you adjust, like you have a
I will combine them sometimes, and like if you upload multiple projections into SaberSim, I'm sure there's other products, but you can choose a weighted rating for each set and like do stuff like that.
Yep, I've used that with SaberSim. Definitely pretty nice to be able to do that. Do you do anything with ownership projections yourself?
I think every time you stare at an ownership projection, you have to decide are you in or you're out, right? Like so it's just a line in the sand in every sport. There's some sports where it could be a little more projectable or not. Realistically, satellites. I guess I was going to say like cash games certainly have a very different set of ownership projections. Satellites probably not so much. So mostly what I play. They follow more what you're likely to see, I think. But still, like, okay, so I guess I do translate a lot of it. NBA is a great example. I translate a lot of it to what I actually think is going to happen in the contest that I'm playing. Yeah. So you hear the concept of squeezing or something like that. Like if you're playing in a 12-man contest, you don't get the smooth distribution of ownership across all players, right? You get the one guy that in the big GPP is 10% owned, but in this contest he's 60% owned,
right? Because
he's the best play. But like it's real easy for me to identify which one's going to be 60% owned, and then you just like you're in a situation where the leverage is super easy at that point. And oftentimes, when I'm wrong, it looks silly and I have a silly lineup that is like, oh, well, I'm pretty sure that guy's getting squeezed. So let me find the where is that ownership going to come from? Okay, it's going to pull from these players. So, this guy's going to be under-owned as a result. So let me play a couple of these weird, hopefully under-owned guys and just like see what happens kind of deal. It's sometimes it is that simple. Sometimes it's a little more complex, but I'd like to think that goes a long ways when you're playing small field satellites. A lot of the players tend to just play the best play in some fashion. And
So what I'm hearing is that you are not like running sims or like running a program to give you ownership projections. You are doing the sims in your head, as Utica would say. The sim is in your brain. You are essentially guesstimating in this field. I think this player is going to be 40% owned.
Well,
this player is going to be 60% owned. Whatever.
When I was watching, when I introduced Cardi to some of these guys, and they were running AI we literally had a meeting, and they said, tell me anything that you can think of that would affect ownership percentage. So I think we came up with a list of like 80 things off the rip. And I was thinking, okay, well, obviously the ownership projections of all the major projection sites. And then like, what happens when you get down to like, time of slate, right? The order at which the games go off can affect ownership sometimes. who's questionable, who's not. When does the news come out, right? So like NBA, if the news comes out at 6:30, well, then the slate kind of fixes itself. Well, if the news doesn't come out till 8 o'clock, well, then the slate has kind of been topsy-turvy throughout the slate, and now it's adjusting in certain ways, and that really affects the end ownership in a much different way. So, I try to think about, I guess it is like, in order to play the game, you got to figure out what's going to happen and when the cards get turned up, right? And that's a never-ending battle. And every single projection set, and what I was getting at with Cardi is that as they dug into all those factors, as many factors as they could think of, any little thing, it's like it's still hard to get right. And they're analyzing how much each of these factors did come out into weighing in to the true effect of that. And I found that conversation really interesting and learning about what does come into play or not. So those projects I found very fascinating, and like it's just how far can you go into this sports game? It's never ending because they just get new sports, you get new formats, new sites popping up and die all the time. If there's opportunities, I'm going to be around. If the opportunities dry up, then unfortunately it's probably not going to work out.
So one question that I typically ask and that I have on my sheet to ask you is, which sports do you play? What I've gathered is that you play every sport on every site, and you're just really willing to play literally anything where you think you can find edge, because you won a NASCAR slate where you don't know anything about NASCAR, it sounds like.
I know more about WNBA than I'm proud to admit, and that has been for years. This is not a new thing. This was grind. Like I wasn't a big baseball fan for a while, truthfully. And what else would I do in the summers? And truthfully, WNBA would have overlays in the NFL, and fine, let's figure it out. And so I knew a lot about that sport very early on. I love UFC now. Absolutely obsessed with UFC. Yeah. It's the only sport I can watch with nothing on it. I don't need a single dollar riding on the slate. I can turn, if I show up late Saturday and the fights have already started and I missed everything, I'll turn it on and still watch it. I can't do that with a single other sport nowadays. So, I'll play that, NASCAR, college football we've talked about. Yeah, like literally I have drawn some lines at some esports games, but that's 99% because most of the slates are like 3 a.m. and I just don't have any interest. It's not being the hunter is not worth it. It's just the pros and cons aren't there. So I remember winning some small GPPs in League of Legends and such early on, like during COVID especially. But I just like couldn't find an edge, and so I just got it's finally something not for me.
All right, so you found something that you're willing to just like
let. I drew the line. I drew the line at Counter-Strike and League of Legends.
That's funny. But if they change,
but I definitely have tried. I gave it an honest try. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, and you're just like, no, I'm not willing to go to sleep at 10 and 5 hours before lock. Yeah.
And they were having late swap stuff in there where they were they were announcing lineups late and changing players. Like these are like 16-year-old kids. What do you mean? Like you don't know who's playing on a day from now? What do you mean? So it was a little more intricate than I realized.
That's funny. Which sport or sports do you think you have the biggest edge in?
My answer still is overlay first. It all starts there. So, I think MLB is number one. There's a lot of liquidity. There's a lot of opportunity, and uniqueness goes a long ways in that sport. The next one is one of the NBAs. It could be the W. It could be the regular. I think, there's so many, all right. So I guess the one of the best things I learned about NBA was just understanding the injury reporting at a very early time. I've been limited and banned on so many betting accounts because we obsessed about it, a little slightly before the ETR crew developed their NBA package. It was actually the season before that. I did a show with Matt Meiselman, and all we did was sweat NBA stuff. We were using 538 models to project every game every day, and using, Matt's injury savviness and I was hosting that show and kind of picking his brain, and we would talk through, like the amount of guys he would nail way ahead of time. Oh, this is a good spot for so and so to take a day off, and there was no indication in the world. And like, you really got to sink deep down. Sometimes it's the front end of a back-to-back, sometimes it's the back. A couple days in advance, you kind of know that it might be one or the other. So how does it change? The books were not privy to this for a long time. So, the Jokic Q tags, the Embiid Q tags, the Giannis stuff, those guys move a line more than any other sport. There's not a single sport. Jokic in and out, you know how big that line should move? Like 9 points.
Yeah.
He affects the game in a way that no other player affects the sport. There's no other sport where a money line is going to move so much with one player. One of the things that I think about a lot when betting is that you can't beat a market that doesn't move. If the market never moves, you've never had a chance to beat it. So, when you get it in good, Bam Adebayo is probably going to take a day off today for some random reason, and you're able to hammer the other team, parlay Jimmy Butler props, whatever else edge you want to find. I'm digging in. I think it's stat views, trying to find like on-offs and trying to figure out, what player really gets affected the most by this decision. And then you just find the way to deploy the capital, get it in play, and pray for the best.
So you're talking about sports betting. I imagine you're also an NBA dailies guy.
The amount of lineups that I would build that were so obscure that were like, okay, well, what if this guy takes a day off? I'll just draft his like 2 replacements in the 5th and 6th round that nobody will have.
Yep.
Try to get the perfect other team. Does the opponent benefit in any way? Like, there's very few matchups. There's a couple where, the actual opposing team actually gets the opposing, defender now has an easier matchup. Or he's a better game. So there's so many ways to leverage a decision like that. And then you just find every little way and kind of sprinkle things out and just see what happens.
You can still do it to some extent, but so it's correct me if I'm wrong. I think that somebody told me that it used to be they would post like the main Underdog daily contest the night before, and you could start playing like while the games are going on for the previous night, but that they changed that up like this year or recently, where they have like a smaller slate the night before, and then they release the actual main slate on the day of the contest. Is that correct, or am I thought somebody had told me that, but I don't play a ton of NBA dailies, and when I do play, it's usually within an hour of lock. So I might be just totally.
I remember a lot of overnight slates. Here's one of my dogs.
Is that your pup?
Hi. Yeah. This is
what kind of dog is this? Molly, you say?
This is Molly. She is a Yorkie.
Molly. She's adorable. How much does she weigh?
This is 6-pound daddy's girl.
6 pounds. Damn.
She's my rooster. She wakes me up at 5 a.m. to 4:30 to 5 a.m. every morning to go to the bathroom. And that's what we do.
I also have a tiny dog who is downstairs waiting for me because my wife is out of town. But he's 13 pounds. And I think he's tiny. I would have guessed that she was about the same size. 6 pounds.
Her brother's about 7 pounds. Louis over there somewhere. So that they add them up. They're about there.
That's great. So it sounds like that is not correct. That they do they post it the night before, or do they wait until the day of?
I don't want to be wrong here. I remember night before plenty often. Maybe they've made some adjustments, but you make a lot of mistakes drafting overnight, so that there's pros and cons to it, right? So you don't you may be on the one. What if you get the one thing right, but you just get something else wrong, and like the slate's still flipped upside down? So I think that. I don't see there's not a big enough advantage to it, right? Obviously, if you get it right, sometimes people don't update their ranks in time. Sometimes you can react to the news. I definitely fire drafts immediately when I see a really strange Q tag. Okay, this is a late Q tag. That leans more likely out. This is kind of strange. Okay, let me just hit my ranks real quick, yank this guy off, jam these other guys in weird spots, and fire some drafts and just go for it. See what happens, and navigate it the best you can.
Yeah. All right. So you play? So right now, you're primarily playing MLB and WNBA. So you said those are two of your
The
best sports.
The WNBA break right now is a little bit sad. Summer is my
It's a long break, right?
Yeah, it's like a month. Yeah, it's a little disappointing, but
do you know the reasoning for that?
Olympics, I believe.
Oh, that would make sense. So it's not an every year thing. It's just for this year.
No, it's just this year. Yeah.
Okay, or years that they have the Olympics. That makes sense.
What was funny is when COVID happened, the NBA did a bubble in Orlando, Florida. So they went to Walt Disney, did all that. The WNBA did the wobble, and that was in Bradenton, Florida, which was literally like 5 miles from where I was staying at the time. So like I couldn't go see the entire WNBA, and they were literally in my backyard. They were staying at like one of the nicest like facilities in this area that has like, you know, kids that pay $20,000 a year to go there in high school. So I thought that was neat. I could have gone there.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Love it.
So all my questions were about dailies, but you said that you play a ton of best ball as well.
Well, I certainly play dailies as well. I mean, I definitely get after all of it.
I mean, I guess I did have a general question about what goes into your process for playing Underdog dailies. I'm sure that it changes for each sport, but let's say
and it changes each day, if I'm being honest, right? So the reality is, when is slate lock? What does my day allotment look like? And where is my edge on that slate? So in MLB, I upload ranks, and you know, I truly study where I differ from the market, especially in pitching. That's where I first start. So, you know, today is a fucking awesome example. I bet the Rockies. I did all kinds of things. I had Pivetta, the Boston pitcher, as he was going number 1 overall, I'm pretty sure, in the daily drafts this morning. And I had him at pitcher 6 or 7 overall in my ranks. So that is the number one red flag to me. Okay, it doesn't get any easier than this. The guy that's in the top of every lineup is going to projected to have a very poor day by Cardi. I mean, obviously, I respect his product a ton. So what do I do with that? Well, I drafted a ton of Rockies. I think I had a plus 200% morning slate. And it was just super easy sled. Obviously, they don't score 20 runs every day, but that one was like, it doesn't get any cleaner than that. How many Rockies combos can I get in there? And I think Oakland, we were really low on. So like, even like the guys like Lawrence, Butler, and Rooker were top 15 picks, and they were out of like my top 50, I think. So like a lot of times the slates just write themselves in that way. So I'm going to be short on Oakland. I'm going to be long Rockies. I'm going to be short Boston pitching. Okay, let's see what happens. Obviously, near nut scenario. I didn't get to the top of the leaderboard. That's fine. But like most of my lineups crossed the cash line. I had a very solid day. And, so like as far as process goes, that's just an example. That's kind of one thing.
A lot of this game theory.
Yeah, it's just time restrictions too. I didn't quite get as many drafts in this morning as I would have liked to. So that's an unfortunate reality that you have to deal with. They do have that new autopilot setting for the multi-draft. That is interesting. I kind of like that, but you're forced into full autopilot.
Wait, what?
This is brand new. It just happened.
Oh, I did not
yesterday.
Catch it. So you can turn on autopilot for all of your drafts.
No.
Oh,
you can mass enter now.
Oh, okay. Mass enter.
There's a baseball slate.
I saw that.
I entered 20 lineups in a baseball slate, and they auto start on autopilot. So you actually have to un-autopilot them to get them back into a draft order.
I didn't know that.
But I don't have to click 20 times in and out of draft to enter a draft. So it's like one less click, I think, or maybe 2 less clicks, and that's a lot better. But there are plenty of people that'll just keep it at auto, and I'm okay with that too. So
do they do that even for slow drafts? Like if you mass enter slow drafts?
I saw a thing it's accept slow drafts.
Okay, interesting. And Chip Skylark
dailies, yeah.
Okay, they're trying to make it so it's not autopilot for the correlation sports. Yeah, that feels better if it's not for the correlation sports. I can see it for the like just pure projection sports. Maybe that's fine.
Yeah, it's hard in baseball. I did not enjoy my baseball experience. It didn't like. So like process. Sometimes I auto draft. Like the reality is, I adjust the ranks in a certain way. I'm not going to get into the full details about
Yeah.
that part, but like I obviously upload my cardio ranks. I study the slate. You know, when I've got, you know, a guy that's ADP 35 at like 7 overall, that's easy, right? Like I'm going to have a decent amount of that guy. I'm not going to take him in the second round every draft, but I'm going to have a lot of that guy. I'm going to move him down. I'm going to make some adjustments to kind of fit what I think's going on. If I have to auto draft, 100%, I have no problem with it. I think solid ranks is enough to get me a lot of the way there in a lot of formats.
Including MLB?
Overlay included, yes. That's like I would have if the overlay is there. I'm fine. I'm fine firing them in. I do think like having good ranks in baseball is really big difference because like there are plenty of days where, you know, a very solid player is like in the 30s or 40s, but he's being taken in the first round in every draft. So, like to me, there's still being mistakes being made all over the place, according to my projections. So, but another example, you end up with stacks anyways, right? Like today, all the Rockies were in like the top 15, like 3 or 4 of them were my top 15. So like even my auto drafted finished with like 2 Rockies, right? So it's like your ranks actually do create their own stacks sometimes on
They're going to be correlated in the way they project typically. Yeah, that makes sense. How much do you try to stack if you are drafting yourself manually?
I was like pretty known for the 5 stack guy for quite a while. Give me the Boston 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Give me the Oakland 4 through 8. Give me the Rays middle of the lineup. Give me whatever. Like if you knew if you knew a certain player was going to hit 2 home runs, how would you change all your ranks of your remaining players?
You would boost up his teammates, and you would just move him to the 101.
Like, so I always think about this. Like, obviously, baseball, mega high variance, and I embrace that variance. I don't mind. Like, this is the satellite player in me. I have no problem taking, you know, a Tampa 3 and you know, a Ranger 2 or like I'm trying to think of a bad, whatever, you know, 2 bad teams, you know, random middle or late parts of their stacks. I have no problem with that. It comes down, you know, how do I get there? It's not always easy. And sometimes it's clicking buttons and just getting kind of all over the place. But I have no problem firing a lot of 5 stacks of a bunch of different teams, you know, especially against the 6 pitchers that are used on the day. Like that's the 6 easy lineups are there. Oh, who's the best pitcher? I'll show you how it goes. I start my pitcher ranks. I go pitcher 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, undo, search the team pitcher 1's playing against, pick 5 guys. I pick like 7 or 8 in a row in case someone drafts my guy. I hit the plane and I go to the next team, right? So I don't care which of the pitchers from that group I got. I'm going to follow it up with 5 guys in a row from a team against the top pitcher.
So
sometimes it gets shelled, and you just have a team that very few people have. It's easy leverage. It's just simple DFS stuff. That pitcher is roughly 16% owned. Okay, we're going to take the team that's very unowned because this pitcher's in 1/6 of the teams. And that's just leverage upon itself. Obviously, that's easy to get to. And some of the other sharp, like sometimes you get in these battles where 3 sharps have the same 5, and then like you either have the same pitcher or you don't. And, you know, sometimes getting duped is like really frustrating in draft sports because there's no excuse for it. But it is what it is. Sometimes other people have the right idea.
It's unavoidable. Yes, there are other.
I don't overthink it, but. Yeah. So what I would do in that example is the pitcher that I have is the biggest adjustment. Sometimes I may go the weird pitcher that I have with the weird team also, so that I can't be there with them, or it's way less likely than the obvious pitcher 1 or 2.
Okay, interesting. I feel like that was some good alpha that you just shared.
I'll spray all kinds of teams like that, and in the most bullish scenarios, if I had more time today, I would have had all sorts of Rockies 3, and like every combo's a 2 around it, and I would have had an even better day, but I have no qualms about it.
Yeah. We had some questions here, so I want to go back a little bit. Okay, going back to what I thought was happening for the NBA contest going on. Jewish Graphic says sort of smaller layup line contest opens at 7 p.m. the night before. Main NBA contest usually opened up 10 or 11 night before. Once ADP settles. Okay, so that was the thing. People
they'll do like a $3 3 max or something that fills really quick,
and it helps them to set the ADP then. So that's how the ADP is set for the main contest. Okay,
that makes sense.
I saw people complaining about it because they liked that. Like, if you start the night before, the ADP is way off when you're drafting the night before. That's interesting. Yeah,
it is good for grinders and bad for fish. That's the reality.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
We want to protect the fish at all costs. It is fair.
Yeah, and especially for grinders who are like such sharks that they know ahead of time. Like you're talking with Matt Meiselman, like know who might be hurt days
when
ahead.
We
like,
were tuned. I am not tuned in like I was when I beat the snot out of NBA draft or Underdog that season. I had so many crazy teams where like reacting to Giannis news or preparing for Giannis news, and those were the Drew Holiday and Middleton was still good back then. Like I had some crazy NBA days for sure.
Yeah. Chip Skylark says that he would love to know your process for every sport. So yeah, we'll go one by one. Every sport. That's funny. Are there any other sports where it is like super? You think you have a unique process that you want to talk about, that you're willing to share a bit of your process, like for NFL or WNBA, whatever, what have you? WNBA is one that I imagine there weren't a ton of good WNBA projections available the past few years.
No, that's absolutely correct. No, that was a game you needed to watch for a while. So, all right, so let's talk WNBA, and it's a minor league basketball franchise, like or system. So it's not NBA, right? It's not high flying dunks. It's not. I mean, obviously, Caitlin Clark can shoot, but it's not a lot of 40-foot 3-pointers. It's not a lot of efficiency, right? And so this edge is no longer there. But one of the edges early on in Underdog was just draft the bigs. Like the shooting percentage is terrible. There's going to be games where both teams shoot terrible and one team just gets a bunch of rebounds. And you're seeing this a little bit with the Angel Reese stuff where like she just gets the ball and puts it back and gets her own rebound and puts it back. And like, this is not just her. Unfortunately, that's just a slightly lower efficient league. They're just not quite as good athletically. They don't dunk really. It's hard. It's like me playing out there a little bit, right? They're obviously way better than me, but there's a little bit more of a human element to it. Right. So, you know, the fundamentals matter more. They gotta fucking give and go and box out and like and you know, it's silly to say, but like just betting on bad shooting days by both teams was kind of an edge for a while.
Betting on
drafting as many setters as they would let me draft.
And it's super flex, so you could just take all the bigs essentially if the people you're drafting against allow you to. Yeah, that makes sense. But it sounds like you say you used to do that way. Has the crowd kind of the field sort of sharpened up?
Yeah. I mean, it's nowhere like it was before. I did have a slate this season where I had a lot of the Washington Mystics center, Misha Hines, and she had a huge game, but she was just going undrafted and on a 2-game slate where I thought was really inappropriate. So you just go all in on the big that's not getting drafted, and she just had the game that she's possible of having. It's not all that difficult. WNBA, there's only 12 teams, so it's not really that difficult to learn the teams. I found it to be pretty easy. The great players are great. The Asia Wilsons, the Breonna Stewarts, they are fun to watch. I liked watching Ionescu before, Reese and Clark. I just enjoy the game. I guess I don't. There's plenty of individual matchups where I have opinions. I certainly think about defensive matchups more in basketball games than a lot of touts like to talk about. Guys that have to chase Luka around on defense don't generally have good offensive games. Okay. Same thing can apply to other, there's less conditioning in WNBA. If the person guarding Caitlin Clark is probably not going to have as efficient of an offensive game, right? Things of that nature. I just try to imagine what happens in the game, and where can we find edges if we estimate what happens in the game.
So you're still not using any kind of projections for WNBA?
I do have I mean, I remember RotoWire having WNBA projections in like 2015 or so, or really? 2014, wow. But they were like the most basic of basics. But I've been, Roto Grinder, Stochastic. I've used a few different things over the years. I'm trying to think of what else, but
I didn't even know that Stochastic had WNBA projections.
I'm pretty sure they do.
They might. I never really played it. Interesting. I've tried using.
The projections are flawed though. They're very. It's like comparing Roto Grinder's basic NBA projections to ETR's NBA projections, right? Like your model is only as good as the inputs of the model, right? Sure. So if you have obviously the WNBA product, there's no money in it really. So
not going to invest as much
if there's a very good NBA, like if there was a sophisticated WNBA product, I would love to pay for it and I would love to extract the data and apply it. It's just there's not a big enough market for it right now. So I don't think there's anybody out there.
Anybody who creates that great product doesn't have any kind of incentive.
Their only edge is like using it in games.
Yeah, exactly. So why would you? Yeah, I could see that. I've used some WNBA projections that I've found to be like I'll play pick six with some DraftKings WNBA projections. I'll be like, oh my god, she projects for 9 fantasy points better than this line, or like 8 fantasy points under. Like this is a huge edge, and it's like it misses half the time. It's just like it feels like it's all over the place. Maybe it's just the system is not.
Well, under is an interesting bet at all times. There's way more of these weird under outcomes, and then it's hard to factor in. She's 9 points over. Sometimes she gets 30 points over, and that covers multiple iterations of this. It gets complex, with ceiling and outcomes and median outcomes.
Yeah, the fantasy points lines. I've said several times, I wish that sites would release sims for the fantasy points line. They release sims for every other stat, but they don't give you sims for how often the over or the under hits for the fantasy points line. I'm like, that would be super useful for a lot of these sports. Sure. That is neither here nor there. Chris, your buddy Chris Holland wants to know what we're drinking tonight. I'll start. I can tell you that I'm drinking boxed wine from my fridge.
Because it was about me, I went and got some Gold Label Reserve. That's not going to work. Maybe the box will work. Hold on.
I can't really see it there.
Yeah, I went clear through there. So, no, that ain't going to work either. Gold Label, Johnny Walker.
Have you added any Coke to it? Or are you just drinking on the rocks?
I'm on my second. I would have got more ice, but I didn't want to get up, so I started my second glass. And
if you want to get up and get ice, I can vamp. I can.
It was not worth it. I am okay. I am having a great time.
Good. All right. So that is what we're drinking tonight. All right. I'll go back to comments, questions. Oh yeah, this is what I want to ask. Jewish McCaffrey asks, has Laake drafted NBA best ball yet this year? / are you planning to max the double dribble? Curious if you have any thoughts on that contest.
So that contest has changed a little bit over the years. Last year it was like 80-90% regular season only. 2 years ago it was a traditional weekly rundown. And now this year I think they're transforming it more into like a sprint format, where I think the finals are like 6 weeks long, and it's your high score out of those 6 weeks amongst all the competitors. So best ball at NBA is I love it. It's great format. I absolutely love Gallagher and Dink and all the work that ETR does year round. The NBA product is phenomenal. And to answer his original question, yes, I am in some slow drafts. I think I'm in like 5 to 10 slow drafts for NBA. I did take Wemby in a couple of them. I think one at 2 overall and one at 3 overall. That's currently the excitement of the year, but yeah.
Well, what do you mean? Just like people are excited about Wemby, or is there like an injury or something?
No, I took him 2nd overall. I mean, that's like bullish. I mean,
that's super.
He is going 1st round. I mean, he's an alien, but I took him over Luka. I mean, it's a pretty big statement. I think. I mean, certainly his ceiling's the universe, but
yeah.
You just look at him and he's just gonna break at any moment too. So I kind of
know.
I hope he stays healthy. I don't want him to go. But Greg Oden was the guy that fell apart for Portland. That was sad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm in I want to say it's an unlimited keeper league for NBA that I pay like zero attention to. But this year, with Wemby there, I spent too much money, and then he went for like $20 in this league, which was like a $200 roll or whatever. So I was really mad at myself for not saving $20 to get Wemby for forever. Yeah, that was an error on my part.
That team's going to be in good shape.
Yeah, it does. The salary actually goes up like $5 every year, so it'll be worse over time. But yeah, that's one of my bigger regrets is not locking Wemby in this.
In best ball formats, his ceiling on a weekly basis is just astronomical. Yeah. Like he's going to have the 10 block game and to have the quad double if he has. Like I'm pretty sure he hasn't done that yet, but it's going to happen sooner or later. Even if he misses time, obviously that's the part of best ball where you have your backups fill in and score the points while he's out. But the amount of points that he's going to score while he's in is going to be unreal. It's going to be so fun to watch.
Yeah, he is a fun player. Are you glad he landed with the Spurs? Do you care?
The dynasty in me says yes.
I suppose, yeah.
I want him to have every chance to succeed, and I got to argue that's his best place to succeed.
Yeah, that's probably true with Pop.
Of the options that were available, at least.
Yeah, of course. All right, so covered NBA best ball. Let's talk a little bit about NFL best ball. So you say you are 700 some drafts in. I
happened to just check. 740 was my NFL contest done already.
Do you use any kind of tool or rankings or anything to help you with
I definitely use ETR ranks. I got no problem admitting that. I am very against any interactive tools that are available on the market. I use zero of them. I know I've heard a bunch of different ones throughout, various stuff. I don't know. There's something about it that it kind of gives me the poker feel where it's a little bit of the beginning of the end. I believe Underdog has made it clear the difference is it can suggest things but not pick things for you.
Yeah.
That you're not going to tell the guy that's got 20,000 in action that it can't pick it for him. He's just going to have it pick it for him, and you're not going to know anything about it, right? So, the tools are only going to get more sophisticated. If I could program my brain into a thing and have it assist me, then that my edge would go up a ton. Like it's inconceivable not to argue that. So obviously it's currently a system of the current engineers that are building it are probably only a certain amount of quality, but that quality goes up every season. And it's really just a matter of time before it's ranking the top 3 at each position, pros and cons for you. And then it's super easy to play the game at that point, and it's doing most of the work for you. You can't argue it's not doing most of the work for you at that point. So most of my work, I prefer to keep it in my head where it belongs and not so much. I don't know. It's obviously there's plenty of good reasons to do it. And I don't blame anybody that does it because every tool is an advantage. Every, lumberjack needs a good tool to gain leverage. I get it, but it's not something I'm willing to put my name on. It's not worth getting my account banned. Sure. It's really okay, you're right. It's fine for now. What if it's not? What if that changes? What if there's a change of heart? What if the terms of service get updated? I've been in online gaming for so long that I just know it's fine until it's not. So maybe it's out of an abundance of caution. Maybe it's because I have a golden goose that I don't want to lose. But the reality is the pros absolutely don't outweigh the cons for me. And whatever edges I would be gaining to me are probably smaller than my opponents are gaining. And I would rather my opponents not have those edges than whatever I'm getting.
I agree with that 100%. I've definitely had that thought of Yeah, I'm sure I can gain something by using. I mean, like the sidekick, really sophisticated, the leg up thing, but I'm like, and it certainly would probably help me with some of my decisions. I Part of the reason I ask is because I've gathered that it's probably better for slow drafts than fast drafts. Like if you're doing slow drafts,
Right.
it'll just like
Yeah. It
lay out.
affects my money more than it's going to help my money, is the
Yeah,
reality of it. And
yeah,
that makes it that, to me, it instantly becomes the enemy then, right? Like, and then, okay, well, then do I just go ahead and use the products because it's only going to be inevitable before they get better, and then they get more sophisticated, and then my opponents eventually pass me? Like, these are the frustrating situations that I'm facing, and obviously we don't know the answers, right? It's only I want these games to stay me versus you. I gravitated to Underdog because you aren't running that, people aren't being able to upload lineups and just play perfectly. They actually have to put in the work, and you got to find time to, even this mass draft system, I kind of don't like it. I'm going to use it, but fucking finding time to click the draft button and going through each and every draft was one of the rules of the game. And now one of the rules is game has changed. So game theory optimal, then all counter changes because all the strategies have to change now. So, it just becomes a little frustrating, and it's just inevitable. Edges shrink.
yeah.
And I try to stay ahead of the game, and I don't like it when my edges shrink quicker than I want them to.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hear you. I had some of the same gut reaction. I'm ultimately okay with the line that they've drawn, but definitely like respect the
If I'm
viewpoint of
stating my
like,
opinion, I want to be kind of clear on it. Like, I'm sounding a little emotional about it. I just want to be clear. That is how I feel. I haven't put a lot of thought into it outside of this exact conversation. But
yeah,
if I'm being frank, that's kind of how I feel. It's kind of bullshit. They kind of suck. I don't want my opponents to have them. And let's play you versus me.
yeah. No, I definitely hear you. I definitely think it is like if you are already good at these games, it's probably bad for you because it allows people who haven't really played them
To close the
before, just
gap.
like to close the gap quickly, like in a hurry. They're going to be able to think like the guys who made the tools, who are really smart people.
Yep.
So I definitely understand that viewpoint. Um, I'm glad that they like I think it's a fair line to say like it can't allow you to make the pick. I hear what you're saying though, of like maybe it's undetectable. I guess I'm not sophisticated enough to know like can you make it undetectable that this bot chose this player for you versus you had to click it. I don't really know. I guess you must be able to, because you can like people use programs to like make
I
it
will
seem like you're
reveal.
clicking
I will
things.
reveal something here that is possibly a bad idea. But I worked with the team that I've already mentioned, and one of the tools we built was a full workaround to all geolocators on all the sports books. I can get around DraftKings. I can get around FanDuel. I can get around them all. It's such a sophisticated product that took us hundreds of hours to develop and research, and flying across the country, putting computers in places and testing them. But we put in the work. We grinded our asses off. And now if we ever need it, we have a fucking really impressive tool that can get us anywhere in the country, teleport to any place, and do what we need to do, right? Obviously, losing access to accounts made this all not worth it. And breaking rules is not fun. It's like you're basically a pirate out there on the Caribbean, just trying to ransack and loot places. And eventually that gets old, and that's not really what all this is about either. So you kind of drift away from it a little bit. But I hate losing, and I hate bullshit rules, and I want to attack.
Yeah, and you want to keep the edge in the games that you're playing. Understood. What else about so I didn't make any questions about NFL best ball. I feel like it is something that I'm thinking about so much these days,
I
and
love it. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm fully involved. I think. All right, let's just get on random stuff here. I think the entire season comes down to two teams running back situations. If you get those right, you fucking win the league. I think the Chargers are going to be magic. You figure out what happens with the LA Chargers. I think you win your pool. You figure out what running backs do well there. I think that's going to be such a game break. Like the outcome versus where you're drafting them is going to be in your closing line value is going to be outrageous if you get that right. And whatever ends up happening in the Bears running back field is kind of the other thing. If it were up to me, I'd have at least one Bear and one charging running back in every team.
What about Broncos to me are on that same level of
There's 4. I think Samaje Perine an easy cut. And I think that's fair. But that one was like, that one's a 2-horse race with two last round flyers, which gets messy real quick. I certainly have been drafting the rookie.
Estime.
Yes, I didn't know how to say his name, so I wanted you to.
I might be wrong.
I wanted you to save me there, but yes, that is absolutely the right one. I'm definitely getting there. I'm underweight Javonte. I'm underweight. Who's the other one?
Julio McLaughlin.
Little underweight McLaughlin. All right, so I think McLaughlin profiles nicely into my H-An empty bags. Generally don't like to bet on the small guys. H-An was a great bet last year, but second, third round, I couldn't be more out. Absolutely super out on Waddle and H-An both.
Wow, okay.
Very much in on Hill, obviously, but the offense is Tyreek Hill. The offense is literally nothing else. Like, I think I put this on Twitter recently that I looked back at Waddle's splits and I was a little impressed when I looked back. But in real time, if you had asked me, I thought Waddle was very disappointing when Hill was out. He had missed some time, and Waddle's just kind of like, okay, like wide receiver doesn't just take over the alpha the same way that running back does. They get a little more target share, but they still got to convert the target share, and it's still a lot of variance within it. That said, I think the numbers actually looked pretty good. So I'm not pushing this point. My memory and my number research told a different story, so I'm trying to be careful here. My opinion is the Dolphins cannot support 3 top 3 picks to 3-round picks.
Yeah.
Hill can be the number 1 overall player. I just think Waddle's a 5th rounder, and I think H-Chan's probably a 5th or 6th rounder. I think they'd be great there. Obviously, the ceiling's high. If H-Chan gets a bunch of touchdowns, I'm going to look like an idiot. But he's small. I think injury is always on the table. Maybe I should be drafting more Wright. I don't know that Wright's the answer either, but I just think the Dolphins got way too many touchdowns last year, and there's a little bit of luck involved in that. I just don't see H-Chan going off I just don't see him killing me. Like, what does he have to get to kill
you going in the second 2-3 turn?
15 touchdowns?
Really well.
Okay, fine. You get 15 touchdowns, you got me. I'm out.
That has kind of been. I've been a little bit underweight to H-Chan also. I do have a good amount of Waddle. H-Chan I go back and forth on because so many sharp people are like, you need to draft H-Chan. Like he's so good, he's so efficient. Like the it's going to be sky's the limit for him. And I think I have some of the
efficiency doesn't last though.
Yeah, with more volume, the efficiency is definitely going to come down, but like it could come down quite a ways. And if the volume goes up, I don't know. I go back and forth all the time on H-Chan.
I'm willing to die on that one. I loved him last year. He was so impressive. All right. So I'll give the reason I brought this up. The Baltimore RB2 that got hurt last year. That's a last round pick.
Keaton Mitchell.
That one. I knew the K part. All right, Keaton Mitchell. So I think his injury is going to run into the start of the season. But as a last round pick, even if he starts on the PUP list, he missed the first 4 games. That guy was almost as impressive as H-Chan throughout the whole season. He was a last round. He's an absolute stone last round pick, undrafted almost in all drafts. That's a high upside type of running back. I'm definitely in on. I'm adding more shares as I go. I get it. Like, he's small and frail too, but like he's not a 2nd or 3rd round pick, right? So obviously Derrick Henry's in the way. He's getting older. Things could happen, but they could also just be fire and ice and play together. Why not?
True. So are you a 0 RB bro in general? Like, do you have a specific type of build that you typically draft, or do you mix it up?
All right. So there was this poker commercial I saw as like a young upcoming grinder. It was Phil Ivey at a table. It was a black and white commercial, and it's real quiet. And he's like, watching people, and he goes, "How do I play? That's up to you." So nice. That's always stuck with me. And what I found so fascinating, for years, I was, 4 or 5 wide receivers started off. This year, I'm a running back guy. because you guys are making me, the field's making me be a running back guy. So I don't care. I have plenty of drafts where I'm in round 9 or I'm in round 10. I have 9 picks and I'm on the clock. I've got 1 quarterback. I've got 3 receivers. I've got 1 tight end. I've got 4 fucking running backs. And I'm like, you know what? You just keep giving me guys way after a realistic range of outcomes, in my opinion. And I'm just going to stop at 5 more often than pick up a 6th. And I'm just going to, be balanced in other places. But the overcorrection in the market on Underdog specifically is just, it's too much. I don't know how else to say it. Like, how can you not be a running back guy? The format favors running backs by a ton. It's half PPR. The points, they add up so much more. The running backs are more consistent. They just get hurt more. It's like when you're drafting them, they're more projectable at all times. They're more predictable. They're more likely to – the RB1 is more likely to finish as the RB1 than the wide receiver 1 is to finish as the wide receiver 1 on a given week, in my opinion. I think that part is more projectable.
On a given week, but is that –
on a given week. On a given week.
Is it true on a given season?
Probably not.
So that's where. So it's funny. I respect your opinion, and I come out differently. Like you say, I do what, like, how I draft is what you guys make me do, and I've gone like the opposite way of it. Is like, well, all of the wide receivers are gone. Like the wide receivers that I want to draft, like most of them are gone by the 8th round. So like, better get your wide receivers early and partially because then
I absolutely have teams where I start 6 wide receivers still. Like,
right.
That's definitely fine. I used to do it way more, is all I'm saying. And like 4th round, the 3rd round, Derrick Henry. What is that about? Like, he's in a better situation than he's ever been in. I don't know. Obviously his age, but like, he's done things that no other running back other than like Adrian Peterson has ever done. Like, there's some exceptions to the rule. Like, it's okay to like be bullish on Derrick Henry on the Baltimore Ravens. There's nothing wrong with that. He's never been a 3rd round pick in his whole career, has he?
Derrick Henry? Yeah. Maybe not. Yeah.
I don't think so at any point.
Yeah. Maybe a 2nd round pick last year.
Yeah. And now he's a 3rd round pick in every league. And I think his situation drastically improved.
Yeah.
Najee Harris is exactly the same player as last year. Exactly the same. But he's a 7th or 8th rounder this year, and he was a 2nd rounder last year. I was totally out last year. I had almost 0. And I have a decent amount this year because, I clicked Najee Harris in round 8 or whatever. Why not? He's a very solid player. He's nothing fancy. He's just going to get in the end zone pretty often, and that's good enough, right?
But see, that's why I'm taking the receivers early, because I'm like, well, I can get Najee Harris in round 8. so I think that's part for me is like, that's why I'm doing more. I think more 0 RB than ever, or hero RB than ever, because I'm like, I can get Najee Harris in round 8, or like Zamir White, who might be the
sure.
It's funny, like, because there are different ways to look at the same problem, and we won't really know until after the year, like what was the right
the
approach.
Struggle is it's all results oriented no matter what. The other part of it is the entire format has changed. So elite quarterbacks are going in round 4 as opposed to round 2.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting so much Jalen Hurts in round 4. That's feels like a good click. Start 3 wide receivers. Get Jalen Hurts.
Click Hurts if you don't have Devontae Smith or AJ Brown. Okay.
I have all kinds of naked I have all kinds of naked Hurts, and I have no problem with that. So, like, I think there's very large risk he doesn't tush push this year. I think Saquon's low key a tush push candidate.
I know.
And I'm just light on Saquon, and I'm heavy on Hurts, but their offensive coordinator change has me excited. So I felt like I think it's interesting on teams that run the what do they call that offense?
Chad helps out.
The run pass option. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, RPO. Yeah.
So run RPOs, yes. So teams that run RPOs, traditionally their target trees shrink a lot.
Yeah.
Because the QB is very limited at how many read. It's either first read, second read, or whatever other emergency situations we are.
Yeah.
So I thought the Eagles were a really rough candidate on Devonta Smith specifically, because what I found was it was AJ Brown, and then it was Dallas Goedert, and then it was just whatever their run or the scramble around or handoff. I forget exactly. So I found that Devonta Smith was kind of the odd man out. I wasn't crazy about his ADP last year. It's only slipped a tiny bit, but I think the offense could change a little. Obviously, RPOs are still going to do the same thing, but maybe they just include Devonta Smith in the very tiny window of check down options. I just felt like Dallas Goedert took a little bit too much of that, and then Smith kind of had a great second half when Dallas was out. I'm curious to see how that all plays out. If Saquon Barkley becomes the tush push, then he's going to look really silly as a second rounder and is going to win leagues left and right.
Yep. If he is the touchdown guy, then I'm going to feel really bad.
His nickname's Quadzilla, right? His entire persona is like quad strength and like being ridiculous there, right? Am I reading too much into this?
Wait, Saquon Barkley is Quadzilla or Jalen Hurts is?
Saquon Barkley.
Okay, because Jalen Hurts is the same way. Like he's just like he can lift the entire world on his back.
Yeah. I've definitely seen his squats and they're insane. But what I'm saying is, this is for us. It's easy to say, well, just don't run the quarterback into the giant pile and hurt him, right? So like, why not just get the running back that can do that instead, just as well theoretically? That one's it feels like it's going to look silly looking back because I'm pretty light Saquon.
I am also pretty light Saquon.
So the same thing. So I start receiver. I like getting 3 or 4. Through 7 rounds, I like to have 3 or 4 receivers. I'm more willing to cut the Rashid Shaheeds and some of those 5th wide receiver. Yeah. I'm very light Cortland Sutton. Yeah, I'm just taking running backs in their area.
Okay.
I take a lot of Palmer, but Palmer's like my wide receiver 5, and then I stop for a while. I don't mind sitting on that 5 for a while.
Yeah, I think that I'm generally doing the same thing. So we're actually not that far off in how we're approaching it because I'm usually like
I used to be way low. Like when I think of 0 RB, we're talking like you take 6 in a row, like starting in round 11, and the full gauntlet of try to catch lucky. In injury situations and whatnot. I mean, but this year, I almost always have 2 by like round 7, and that's kind of new for me.
Yeah. Okay. So you
that's like a hero RB build to me.
Yeah. Jewish McCaffrey pointed out AJ Dillon is Quadzilla. That's who I thought was Quadzilla. Maybe there are multiple players with the nickname Quadzilla, or maybe you're just making shit up right now. Are you making shit up right now?
I don't know. Am I?
Yeah. He's holding up the bottle for the audio listeners. Unclear. Chip Skylark says ETR video today pushing back on the tush push going away stuff. It's possible, but unlikely. I think that's one of those like nobody knows for sure. We're all.
I think you take it away from Jalen Hurts and give it to anybody else. Like I think Jalen being at the bottom of that pile provides an injury risk that doesn't make the math problem work out very well.
Yeah, well, I think they lost Jason Kelsey, so like that they're
yes, obviously there's risk of it all going away for sure.
Yeah, but I sort of think that it's just like they just signed this new exciting running back to a big deal. Like they probably want him scoring touchdowns, but who knows? It's none of us really know. We're all taking
just like Swift last year.
I mean, but Swift was never the same player as Saquon Barkley. That is not.
No, I agree.
Nearly the same level.
But Saquon, there's been no running back more disappointed than Saquon in his whole career.
Is that true? Yeah, I mean,
I feel like he's been super unimpressive, and that probably is more of a Giants
relative to the hype. Yeah,
he's been a first or second rounder every year, and he's just been like meh.
Yeah, that is largely true. He's exciting, but he got hurt, and hasn't entirely lived up to our expectations. Everybody, not everybody, several people in chat have been like, "Hey, you guys should do a draft. Do a draft right now." And I did a draft on one of these once. It was a playoff best ball draft that took like 15 minutes, and I was like, "Okay, we can detour for 15 minutes to do a draft." I don't think that we need to do a draft on because that'd be an hour. That'd be an hour of our time.
I mean, I'm not dying to do one. If you want to,
no,
I'm in. But
no. We're not going to do a draft. But what I will say is, Laake, if you want to come back and do a draft stream sometime. I'd love to have you
on
separate from this
hell
to do a draft stream. Yeah, so we'll do that another night. So sorry guys, no draft stream tonight. If any of you have questions for Laake, we are nearly an hour and 40 minutes into this. Time really flies during these shows. It's always like you get.
I really tried to warn you. I literally will talk as long as you let me. As long as this is live, I'm gonna keep talking.
I mean, that's cool with me. I try to keep it under 2 hours typically, but I also don't have any there's no hard deadline other than my wife is gone, so I gotta not leave my dog alone for too long.
Yes,
He's
that's important.
downstairs sad and lonely right now, so I can't leave him for too long. But yeah, no, we can keep going. If you guys have any questions for Laake, let me know. I'd be happy to take them. I have just a few more myself, other than just anything else we want to talk about. And anybody have other NFL best ball questions you want to talk about? Any other sport? Happy to talk about whatever. Jewish McCaffrey says playing for sprints. That'll be your episode, Jewish McCaffrey. If you ever are willing to come on the show, we'll talk about the sprint the entire time. I don't know if you know Jewish McCaffrey's tendency to go into every single Discord and say sprint 7 out of 12.
I see him post on Twitter all the time. So and so needed for the sprint.
Yeah, always trying to fill the sprint. He is the only person who's going to max it.
Yes, no, I think I have 5 finished. I was proud of that. I have a couple more slows going, but I add them every once in a while. I don't know. I don't know. The format is different. I don't think the 50 buy-in is not a big factor. It's a little bit of a factor, admittedly, but not a huge part of it. It's just kind of like it's not an exciting format, right? It would be an easier click for 15, I guess, but
yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like I don't know.
I don't have a good reason for it. I'm sorry, Jewish McCaffrey. I know you pimp it all the time. I'm mostly not a fast drafter. I think that's most of it, and they're mostly trying to get fast drafts. But
yeah, the slows fill pretty slowly, I think.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Chip Skylark wants to know: are you getting into any of the other formats on Underdog? Eliminator, weekly winners, sprint. So I'm trying to think if there are any others.
Yep, all of them. Weekly winners by far my favorite. Eliminator is extremely exciting. I've got a decent eliminator sweat in the best ball right now. I think I got 22 teams left. I think we're on the 3rd stage of In the Money. And yeah, we'll see. I think the formats are totally different. Obviously, you have to think a lot about them. There's the basic stuff for weekly winners, like stacking bye weeks and things like that. I definitely have a lot of those. So when we're talking Derrick Henry, for example, I think I have 25% of him in weekly winners. And so the 2 bye weeks that have the most buys are 12 and 14. They both have 6 teams. But what's interesting is there's several first-round picks out of week 12 and no first-round picks out of week 14. So what ends up happening in some drafts is there's a couple of guys fighting over the week 12s, but nobody necessarily fighting over the week 14s unless they pick them up in the second round or whatnot. One of the things I did was I made a draft board where I was taking 4th overall Jonathan Taylor, week 14 bye, and Derrick Henry goes in the second round of that format. So I was just starting every draft, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, week 14. Then you hit this Baltimore stretch where all the Ravens are on the table and all the Texans are on the table. And you just take a bunch of week 14s where they're all stacked together and, other people are fighting for other stuff. So I have some really fun teams that started that way. And yeah, I don't know. Just
have you watched Pete Overzet's stream with Michael Chang on Weekly Winners?
I strongly don't like Pete Overzet.
You don't like him? Oh, okay.
I don't enjoy his content. It's nothing personal. When he comes on, I change the channel.
All right. Well, then you have not seen the stream. I'm a fan,
and I warned you about that.
You did. You warned me that you don't like a lot of people in the content space.
It is not personal. I'm sure he's a great guy. He doesn't bother me as a human, but the audience that he's catering to is far below where my level of expertise is in this field, and I just can't connect with it. I just can't enjoy what he's talking. I don't know. And there's so many that are in the exact same category. It's not just him.
Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna push back too hard, but I will say I think that he does a lot of different content that caters to different levels of audience. So maybe the ones you've seen are more lower level.
I don't like his face that much. There's no excuse for it. He's just I don't know. Just he talks. I'm just no, I'm good.
All right.
It is what it is. I'm sorry, Pete.
All right, well, we'll leave it at that. But
there's many other in that category. He's not alone. He's not.
You want to tell? Should we do a Mount Rushmore of your least favorite people in the space? No, I'm not. That's not a. We're not starting beefs.
Nah.
We're not starting beefs on this, unless you want to. If you have beefs that you need to,
I don't have beefs. No, I'm a lover mostly.
All right. So anyway, he had a guy on talking about weekly winners, and so he made the point, which I have kind of said previously as well, that I feel like just stacking bye weeks, and he described that as defensive drafting. Do you ever like attack certain weeks? Like just like I'm trying to win this week or that week? Like, is that something that you ever do instead of just like, okay, I'm gonna take a bunch of players with this same bye week, because then it's like, okay, yeah, you
all right. So I have a few over the years, a few message exchange with Cardi on weekly winners type topics. It's a little bit interesting for baseball because weekly winners is kind of a similar idea to just traditional underdog baseball scoring. So it's kind of like a full week at a time is how the scoring is kind of made. What I would need to do the full data science attack on that would need a full season projections, every player, every week, a number to work with, and then kind of just build a week by week like draft board, and then kind of go from there. I think I have trouble like looking at a schedule like the week 7 schedule and being
that's what I try to do.
Obviously, you just take Tajay Spears here and you take Raheem Mostert. I don't know. I definitely struggle with that a little bit. Now, clearly there's, good matchup, bad matchup, but there's so much variance in defense from year to year that how confident can you say that the Vikings are bad or the Saints are bad or any Panthers are bad? There's varying degrees of confidence you can say that in, but there's so much variance in defense that I don't know how much stock I could buy in that.
So I have that problem. So I take the approach of trying to target specific weeks, but it's usually like specific weeks within a short time frame, either at the beginning or the end of the year. Because I think like you can sort of find like, okay, rookie probably going to be better later in the year.
Yeah, injured and rookie players fit better with early bye week players because they're more available at the end of the season.
Yeah, but I definitely have struggled with that, like trying to figure out, okay, which defenses are going to be bad. And I'm like, I don't fucking know which defenses are going to be good or bad.
I try not to overthink that part. There's so much variance and noise within it. Like there's obviously, the Ravens are probably going to be good. The Steelers are going to be good. Okay. Who else you got? I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
The Niners are probably going to be good.
Bones asking how do you win at MLB? Are you talking about the MLB product that Michael was just talking about, or you mean MLB dailies, or what is going to be more specific with the question?
The easy answer is draft the guys that hit the home runs. What do you mean?
Sure. If you can just predict who's going to hit those home runs, you are.
Yeah, it's really simple.
I guess with like defenses, you can sort of use like the game totals, but my guess is that the game lines that are posted right now are not that great, like relative to like
exactly
the week 7 game line right now probably isn't that indicative of what it's going to be prior to week 7.
100% agree.
Yeah, Johnny Football says don't dupe me, bro, might be the way to win at MLB. I don't know.
So important. Don't get duped in any guaranteed prize pool.
Do you play NFL Showdown DFS?
Sure. Yeah, I think so when I was talking earlier about the squeezing of certain types of like value plays, I think Showdown, I was actually navigating like NBA Showdown was like kind of where my brain was, because that's the biggest example of like random value play on the Showdown slate. He's a 1K player, but now he's in the lineup, but he just ends up 80% owned, but he's getting 18 minutes and he's got a 12 projection. So within that 12 projection, he's got, plenty of 6s and 8 games in his arsenals. Obviously, the games where he gets 20 and 22, I'm going to lose a lot fading him. But like he's going to have lots of 6s and 8s, and then I just win all the money because everybody has the guy that was the obvious, easy, chalk value play. But like the steam catches up way too much. So when it comes to NFL, I don't remember that being as common. I find, I guess in the big fields, the value plays that I identify tend to remain fairly low owned, but that would probably, I don't think that's true in the satellites that I end up playing. So I think it's pretty similar in NFL.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from anybody other than how do you win at MLB? What's behind the filter of PRs at Shrine? That's funny. Jewish McCaffrey says, wait till you hear Locky's opinion of Neil Orfield. I don't want to know. We don't need to.
Neil, you were on a stream with me as we were on Sheeps.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I like Neil. I reached out to Neil. I asked Neil to let me on. So that's how I feel about Neil, if I'm being honest. I told Neil specifically, there's very few people in this space that I enjoy what they have to say. And I reached out to Neil and I said, I enjoyed what you had to say. Obviously, you said a couple of nice things about me. That had very little impact on that. I'm here to support the people that are doing good stuff. Like you're a valuable contribution. I like having you around. I appreciate you. And I'm just here to grow all of it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you coming on my channel. This has been a fun episode. It's been a good conversation. Appreciate that. Yeah, we were that was our first communication was we crossed paths in the night on Dark Sheep's channel. He was just in Minneapolis. We met up for drinks last week.
Really? So, I love Sheep. I just ended up in a random Discord channel in like 2016, and it's had like the same 25 guys for like 7 years or whatever. And like it was Matt Meiselman and Sheep and Cardi and like a few other guys that it's just been like incredible. It was like the weirdest elite small group. We've gotten so close over the years. We just share a bunch of stories. Like we've talked about renting a big house and all going for like baseball opening weekend or, it's just been a cool community. We're all grinding hard day and night. And there's a lot of losing in this sport and all these games, but just having someone that's there to, just blow the steam off and connect with it. Sheep's been real cool. I really like getting to know him.
Yeah, it was really fun. He told me a little bit about the Discord group that he was in, the very private Discord that seems pretty small. Like sounds like it's a relatively small group.
I have like 30 Discord channels. It's the only one I can keep up with because there's no volume. It's just like there's plenty of like baseball stuff, but there's so many different channels. Everything's segmented that when you're behind on something, okay, I'll catch up on PGA later. I'll get whatever. But it was exactly what you would have wanted, a group of hungry dudes that never, scammed each other. We never let our political opinions get in the way. We have a very openly transgender in our group and nobody gives a damn. It's just super chill. We're very just guys that we're just trying to learn and, pick each other's brains. And that has been like a real positive influence many countless nights of frustration. They've been, always been there. So shout out to people Miles, Sheep, all the homies.
That's
Atlanta.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good to stat. Are you talking about stat ATL or a different?
No, just okay. He's just shouldn't be a named player really. Just
all right.
Homie that grinds satellites and
love it.
Low key. There's a lot of low key players.
Nice. We did get some questions here. First of all, the Pound says, "What's up, fellas? You do not want to hear what Michael thinks about overlays." Pat from the Pound, you don't want to hear it, but because he did not hear that you don't like overlays. Jewish McCaffrey asks, "Does Laake have any specific strategies for NFL battle royales on Underdog?"
I'm gonna be honest. So what's funny is because of how big the pools were for NFL, I played very little volume. Like I'm not looking to play a $10 that wins 50K up top because there's a zillion. You have to get the mega ultimate nut, perfect everything.
Yeah.
But I don't play a lot of dailies. I think I was going to change that this year, but I certainly haven't cashed a single. I've literally won every other sport many times over, and I played the best ball NFL, but I haven't put a lot of volume in the dailies, and I don't mind that. I just thought it was a little high variance and a little bit like the prize pools were too big. I thought the variance was going to be quite high, so I kind of sat them out for a little bit. I think I played more of the $25 5Ks, or what was the prize pools? They were bigger than that. They played some $25 that had 12 player drafts. I like those.
The 12 players. It's
the 12 player drafts. I'll put some real money up for that.
And you don't have to worry about collusion nearly as much in the 12 player drafts. Not that it's a huge.
I agree with you. The collusion. I mean, it's such a real topic, especially in 3-mans. Obviously, like when I play cash games on Underdog, I try to shitpost about it to try to like make. I was running a bit for a little while. It was called Sickos Only, and every time we would run like a $500 4 or 5-man draft for MLB, I would post the drafts because I have nothing to hide. I'm not a colluder. I know for a fact, and in a way, I was like, okay, let's let the public keep an eye on this and make sure that there's not a lot of stuff going on. I mean, this guy T-Box that plays, he's a fucking fun guy. He plays a ton of volume. He plays really big. He's the kind of guy that I think people would be willing to collude against because he will play the biggest of stakes at all times around the clock. He'll auto draft $1,000 draft in a heartbeat, and he just puts it up, and he's a fucking dude. So, you know, I don't want to like chase that guy either. You know, I don't know if he's going to watch this or not, but you know, when I was there was a point where I was building my schedule to play $500 drafts with this guy. And it reminded me of poker in some way. He auto drafts, whatever, and he doesn't have good ranks, and he just puts his money up and doesn't care as much, it seems like. So, you know, it reminded me of poker a little bit. Do I want to build my life around this guy? Do I want to hunt him down? Do I want to chase him in every single draft he's in? No, I don't. I really don't.
Not
like
worth your
that.
time.
At a certain point, it becomes predatory. At a certain point, it becomes not what I'm like. It just becomes grimy. Obviously, he's a grown man. He can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah.
And that's his choice. And that's not my opinion either. But like, am I making it better or am I making it worse by hunting him and like trying to attack it? And all that I find really complicated. And so I don't like that part of it sometimes. And yeah, sure, that makes me certain expletives that you want to say, but I don't know. Like, I try to have a little bit of a heart. When you're playing peer-to-peer games, you are extracting from somebody else.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of times where I can overlook that, and there's plenty of times where I can't. And I gotta realize, like, this is tough. Like, I'm literally taking somebody else's money. It becomes easier and more difficult at different times, is my honest opinion.
I think people might be surprised to hear that is something that has never deterred me. Like trying to take people's money in these games. I'm like, I mean, if I
don't expect anyone to have that opinion. I don't.
Yeah,
it's every one of my opponents are grown men. They can make their own choices. I've made my own bad choices, and I've learned from them. But it's
cash games is also different. You're playing cash games.
I've never really 3 and 4 man cash games where it's like it's just us and a couple other randoms. It was me, T-Box, and like this guy Easy, and Easy was good, and T-Box kind of wasn't.
Easy's here in chat.
Yeah. The Easy's fucking very good. He knows what he's doing for sure. I have very little edge against him, but I didn't think that. Like, I thought we both had a pretty big edge against this other guy, right? So it just like, I don't know who Easy is. Is he going to collude with another account to start coming into these? There's enough incentive. There's literally like fucking $2,000 a sit and go that you're doing that. There is enough financial incentive to do this. I don't know him, obviously. So, you got to, I don't know.
You don't know Easy?
I mean, I know who he is as like an account. I've never met. I've never had a beer with him. I've never analyzed his strategy in colluding in shorthanded cash games, right? You see what I'm saying? So like, these are complicated.
Easy is in chat. He wants you to collude with those nuts.
Yeah, look, and I respect Easy. I said he's a grinder. He knows what he's doing. He plays well.
Yeah.
But if it's me, him, and fucking T-Box is the fish. I'm sorry. Like there's really no argument there. So these were complicated questions and things that I have to deal with within myself. And there are various times where I was okay with it, and there was various times where I was not okay with it. And like, it is what it is. I don't expect anybody to have that stance. That just happens to be my stance.
Okay. No, yeah, it's good to have a heart, I would say, in general.
I only went through this in poker, so that's the only reason I'm here. It's like in poker, you're literally like trying to trick a guy so you can take his money. Here, right. There's a little bit of that, but not as much. So it's complicated.
I feel you. John Jackson wants to know, can we get some clarity on the Jolly Joker profile picture? Your Twitter.
What is the clarity needed? I own the Jolly Joker that's pictured, but I don't really participate in the Jolly Joker ecosystem. So maybe that's what he's referring to. I don't know. I bought it because it was cool, and I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. So when did you buy it? Did you buy it during the peak of NFTs?
Oh yeah, I think I minted it. I think I paid.
Oh damn.
I think I 299'd it.
Did they like take off? I'm familiar with the profile picture a little bit, but like I'm familiar with a lot of profile pictures.
I think it was a Herzig project.
Oh, it was Herzig. Okay.
It's Herzig's project. It gives me free access to Own the Moment.
Okay.
Own the Moment uses NBA Top Shot analytics and stuff like that. So I mostly bought it to have access to that. I didn't participate. I took a big downswing there like every other person and decided to remove myself for a while. I actually like 2 weeks ago just started buying again because prices are just so far down that they don't have much further down to go possibly.
You're buying an NBA Top Shot or something?
Yeah, I actually have probably added 100 NBA Top Shots in the last 3 weeks.
Which types of moments are you buying?
So I set out most of the back half of Series 3 and most of Series 4. Okay. No transactions, no logins, no nothing. But now I'm using the sniper on Own the Moment, and it basically reveals where the low serial numbers are and kind of the deals more or less. So I've just been adding anything that I don't already have, which I had 2,200 moments on a dormant account. So quite a bit, but I've let it sit for a while. So now I'm just kind of adding some like all these like parallels and vortexes. I've not participated in any of that. So I'm like adding, serial digit 19 of like a player and for $1 and locking that now. So mostly just kind of collecting some of the older, actually getting some Series 1 stuff that I thought was absolutely completely unattainable, but they're down to like $3 to $5 for a lot of the Series 1 stuff. So, what is the bull case for NBA Top Shot? Nothing. I buy them because I like them. I don't give a fuck. I'm likely torching more money.
They have a lot of money invested in it. So like the infrastructure, a ton of money has been invested in it.
One of my best friends is a very big whale, and he's gotten a lot of rewards back that I have not gotten. He took me to the NFL Pro Bowl. He took me to a Heat game. He took me to a Magic game. He took me to Game 3 of the NBA Finals this year. I saw Mavs Celtics in Dallas. He's gotten a lot of things that I have not. In a way, that kind of has made me like, okay, somebody's getting some real shit. It's not my account because my account is only a smaller medium account. Okay, let me accumulate some things. Let me collect them because they're fun and for me. I'm probably torching money, but the bull case is easy. If it works out, there's very limited supply. Most of my serial numbers are very solid. I've got a lot of the key, I got most of the key commons spread out over, I have like the base 2 set. I have the base 3 set.
Do you go after like Top Shot debut moments?
I have a lot of debuts.
That was always my thing. I was like, clearly like these dumb commons, like the third iteration of this player's Top Shot. I was like, that's never going to be worth a lot of money. But I thought the Top Shot debuts were going to be like, these are going to take off. And of course, I'm the guy who lost all the money buying all those Top Shot debuts for like Luka for like $5,000. That was mistakes were made.
Yeah, I think I was probably 25K in. My account probably hit 45K at peak. It's like 4K now. I'm very okay. I'm okay with it all. I round tripped in some gross ways. John Jackson.
We have so many traumatic memories of
No,
NBA
but
Top
listen,
Shot.
I don't look. I'm being very clear about it. I'm buying them because I like them. It's not. I'm not trying to flip. I'm not trying to make money. I'm locking in sets that I don't have. I'm buying single versions of something, and that's it. And it's only for me. I get all of the PTSD, but they should have a war chest somewhere. They should have the ability to. It should work out theoretically. We'll see.
Theoretically, yeah, we can dream. All right, if none of you have any pressing questions, I will go back to my usual questions that I toward the end of the show. And you told me that you were going to struggle with this question, the Mount Rushmore question.
Yeah.
Have you given any thought? Do you think you're able to answer any like DFS?
How do you want to frame it? There's plenty of people I can show respect
to. Who is on your fantasy sports? What would be the easiest? Would it be Underdog Daily Mount Rushmore, Best Ball Mount Rushmore, DFS Mount Rushmore, or do we need to combine them all together?
All right, here's what I'm going to do. I think just sports, because like there's people that have thoughts on the games that I respect, and I want to focus on the positives as much as I can. So, okay. All right, I'm going to go with the obvious one that I've mentioned a ton, Derek Carty for baseball. Just unbelievable product. The bat is by far, like I have made so much money off of those projections, lapping every other system by many times. It is incredible how different it is from the market. I'm going to give a low key, a kind of a possibly an unknown one, but one that I have been a big fan of that has done well for me. So The Athletic has a contributor for hockey. Dom Lezuzik, some really difficult to say last name. Dom L's hockey stuff for The Athletic is literally dynamite. He used to offer daily picks with daily sports bets, and his model went through a pretty high variance stretch, and he was like getting death threats and stuff, so he decided to like not do it. He had a very taxing year where he finished plus like 10%, but like in the middle of the season he went like on a minus 40 unit downswing or something, so it was a very stressful year for him. So he decided to remove all of his daily contributions, and instead the model focuses on season long NHL. But every year in the last like 3 or 4 years, I've had some crazy sweats going into the playoffs, futures action, just like understanding how team structure works, who to be bullish on. Dom L's product and model and his futures odds, all of it is fucking top notch. I love it. And I think that's a really unknown
chat. I tried searching.
I don't know how to fucking say it, bro. Are you kidding me?
What came up. I have no clue how to say this. All right, but I threw it up.
You thought I was joking when I was like Dom L, bro. That's all you need.
For audio listeners, the last name is, so it's DOM is the first name. The last name is LUSZCZYSZYN. So
and he's been on a podcast with Matt Meiselman. I'm familiar with him. His work is amazing. He's a very well-spoken dude. His last name's a little Russian and a little complicated. So I couldn't be like, he's like a what I would consider the most unknown guy that I'm bullish on.
Okay. So we got Cardi, we got Dom L.
Yeah. For basketball, it's got to be Dinker Gallagher, like the ETR guys. I live and breathe the way they think about the game. It really inspires me in ways that very few other people can. Football, probably still sticking with ETR. Derek Carty has a blitz model that is also NFL. I've given that some work. It is good. It's not as good as I want it to be. It has a couple biases that I was not able to get past, that I kind of wasn't crazy about over the long term. But it's also a long-winded way of saying I think football is the hardest sport. And it's like, how do you model football? Well, you got to predict play calling. You got to predict coaching tendencies. There's so many complicated factors of football. So in a way, I almost treat football like it's got the most information. So in a way, I kind of treat it like, I mean, sure, I got ranks and I upload ranks, but I kind of wing it in a lot of ways. I focus more on ownership. I focus more on, range of outcomes. And that's mostly where I end up with football.
All right. Wait, is that is 4. That is 4. So it's ETR football is sort of just a general ETR NBA.
Yeah, I mean,
ETR,
I don't want to pick between Levitan and Silva. I mean, they're both a yin and yang. Great.
True. Yeah, ETR does great work in general. All right, Mount Rushmore of the whales that you like playing against the best.
Whoa. I don't. That one. That's a hard pass.
It was kind of a joke question, but I was.
No, it's an excellent question.
You answer if you wanted to.
I got to pass on that one. Thank
All
you.
right, that is fair. Jewish McCaffrey wants to know if you are a baseball card guy, or are you a card collector in general, or a memorabilia collector?
It's a great question. So I have a lot of NBA cards from 93 to 96 or something super, super, super random. I think I have like 70 Jordans somewhere in a box.
Nice.
Conditions are probably somewhere between 7s and 8s, right? So I don't really have any good 10s or 9s. I don't have anything graded really. I think sports cards are complicated. Like I remember there was a time where I was looking into some Otanis and Trouts and like what does it look like to have a security that's tied to the performance of an athlete? What is it like to bet on a player where the outcome of this financial instrument is tied to the results of this player? And what I kind of just found was like the risk rewards just kind of didn't line up. Like the winners would kind of do this and the losers would do this.
Yeah.
And so I think the total market cap kind of gets sucked out by the winners, but I didn't find a way to find an edge, if I'm being honest. Like, what am I going to do? Go to like, garage sales and try to find good condition stuff that isn't graded. I don't know. It just sounded like way too much work to me. I don't know.
It's tough. Especially if you're collecting like modern, it's like you can nail. I mean, even like Nikola Jokic, like, yeah, if you got him really early on before he was like anything, sure, you made bank on Nikola Jokic, but like there are so few players that are big wins. Like you said, like it's Giannis, it's Jokic, like the guys who like came out of nowhere. Because like even like Anthony Edwards, so he was a first overall pick. His cards were expensive immediately. So like, even if you like hit on like this guy's going to be great, it's like,
and he's hitting in a way that I didn't expect. He's hitting it and roughly his ceiling outcome.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree. It is very tough. I've gotten largely out of sports card collecting other than I guess so. I for a while was trying to play it like you, where it's like I'm trying to make money at this. Now I'm just like, all right, I'm going to buy PCs of Justin Steele, the guys I like. Where because
shout out Justin Steele.
Yeah,
by the way, I remember having 21% of him yesterday when he was pitching.
Hell yeah. Yeah, like at the end of the day, it's like I have a little bit of like the collector mentality. Like I can't help like sort of just wanting to like there is like sort of like hunting for like that one card. Like you don't have that card. Right. I want to get that one card.
One thing that I haven't brought up. So when I speak about my draft expertise, when I talk about like kind of the things that make me different, there's a card game called Magic the Gathering that I started with before poker, before any of this.
It's not an obscure game.
Right. So I played that game only from age 16 to like 24. And I traveled the country. I played in Grand Prix. I took it very like it was a hustle for me. We would go play 3-on-3 drafts for, at the time, hundreds of dollars when we're kids. And, wow. There was a ton of cheating involved. There were people adding cards. There was people doing all kinds of shit. But at the end of the day, there was a ton of strategy at an early age of, okay, all right, so it was a 3-on-3 contest. I would open a pack of 15 cards. Everything that I pass has a chance to be taken by our opponent. So I either got to de-draft the best card defensively, or I got to add this offensively into my deck and start building a new strategy. So it was very early on where I started understanding, okay, there's a limited number of resources available. They get moved around in a circle. Everything that I do affects the other players, and drafting and understanding, okay, I could take this guy that I have ranked higher, but I could also take this other guy, and that guy may come back to me. I could get them both. That is like a game changer when you're like, okay, I could take this best player, but I could also take this other guy and still get this guy in the next round. What happens then? My team is definitely better. So, it's just kind of like leveling up in different ways as you go. And that experience was very crucial to all this.
Clearly helps your mindset going into underdog draft games, like, because you're making the same decisions of like, can I push this guy? Do I need to take him now?
I've talked a lot about underdog live events. Like, what if they just took cards? Like, you showed cards, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and they laid them out on the table, and you had to go find your guy and draft him. That's the live event. There's no ranks, there's no nothing. It's 12 guys standing in a circle around a table, and it's just football cards, and it's just pictures of guys, whatever versions of it you want. It could be cheap versions, it don't matter, but that's the game. The game is there's no computers, there's nothing else. This is the live finals of an underdog event. It's just table face up. Everybody, you got to pick out of your brain. It's man, every man for himself. That's the kind of shit that I love. That sounds exciting to me. I would love to be able to play that for high stakes.
But what if I want somebody who's like way off the board and they don't have a card for him? You can't get them? You
could write it in.
Oh, okay. You can write in cards.
Sure.
All right.
You can absolutely write it in.
Nice. All right. There's some good innovation. Yeah.
We'll make it happen.
We'll pitch it. We'll pitch it underdog. All right. Final question that I always like to end on a positive note. Favorite win or win celebration, or both, and you can do multiple if you want to. I'm not, this isn't a strict thing, but like, I want to hear about your big win. So you had the $100,000 NASCAR win. If that's your most exciting, if there's another one, love to hear about it.
I like when I won the 20K in hockey, I had 7 live players in the finals, and nobody else had more than 5. I basically had locked it up as soon as it started, and I was like really confident. I was like, holy shit, I'm just winning this thing. I was the only team that had it, even it was the year that the Golden Knights beat the Panthers. So it was last year. Yeah.
This is NHL playoff best ball.
Yeah, it was a playoff contest. Yeah. So it was a 8 seed against a 4 seed in the finals. Okay. So I had a 5 Dallas Stars as a high seed in the West, and then 3 and 4 of Panthers as an 8 seed against the Boston Bruins, which also, funny story is, Dom's model had Boston as a massive bet all season. I had boatloads of futures on Boston that year, and that came in. I had them winning the President's Cup. I had them winning the East. I had them, conference champions. And the bets were just printing by the time it was playoff time. So like, it literally, the only reason I drafted these Panthers teams was as a hedge to all my Boston futures, because I had, easily, something like 700 to win like 20K on Boston futures, all kinds of crazy numbers that really matured into a positive thing. And so and I know there's so much variance in hockey. Playoff hockey is insane. There's all kinds of upsets all over the place. Any team can just score more goals than the other team. It's not like basketball where the favorite wins at a pretty high clip. So, I just drafted some random, 8 seeds with other combos, and, that's how you get unique. And that's all it took to really take that down. So that one, I got sidetracked there. That one felt kind of shoot in. It wasn't very exciting doing that. I literally had that one locked up right away.
But it was exciting to learn that you had it locked up by like going
Oh, that was so fun. The spreadsheet where I had everybody's name and every player they had, and I was just like,
I did that for NBA, and it was less fun when I was learning like, oh, there's so many better teams in mine.
100. There was whatever 80 to 120 teams. I forget, something like that. I mapped it all out. I was like, oh, they're fucked. They can't win. I'm just in. And I had the good players on each team, so it wasn't even like everybody. I had everybody duped, but just like I had extra them covered, players, so they had no shots. So they had no shots. So, honestly, NASCAR was the one where my wife was taking a bath and I interrupted her, and I was just like, I fucking did it, man. And when I say, I won the 100K, it was really like a 129. I won everything else. I won the fucking $3 small thing.
Nice.
I won everything else that night. So it was just kind of like, in some ways, I'm like, it's NASCAR. Did I just get lucky? Did I really have an edge? And in a lot of ways, I kind of questioned myself. It was like, am I just a degenerate? Is this just fucking, are you just such a loser that you just wanted? I don't know. Like, there was a little bit of like triple checking, quadruple checking. Nah, man, I just played the guys they didn't know to play. And I don't fucking care what sport it is. I put in the work. I've lost tons of fucking buy-ins chasing this. I've had the Daytona 500. I've been putting big action in that for like 6 years in a row because you win random satellites and that's just how the format goes, right? So to cash one of those in, I was like, nah, like I put in the time. I earned this. So that one like really felt like I earned. And in a way, that was special. Even though like I said, I don't know anything about the sport. I've been asking for edges in the sport for years. I've been studying Stevie's model, and I had been dumping in buy-ins realistically, but that's any sport really. So when I hit it, I was like, God damn, finally. I knew that I was playing at an advantage, but seeing it play out, it's satisfying. There's a gratification there. Obviously, I'm trying to be careful. It's not ego, right? Because it could be undeserved, but I kind of feel like I did earn that one. And when you feel like you earned it, they feel great. There's nothing like an earned win. That's
put in
a
the
special
work.
feeling. Yeah, like
you put in the
when
work,
you earn that shit, it's so sweet.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's very cool. And my understanding of NASCAR is like you can't be confident at all in your placement until it's over. Like things can change. Just like,
but even like what's interesting about that one is like there was something crazy happened with 4 laps left, and then because of that, I got in the lead. But something else happened with 2 laps left, and my buddy that had the lineups in the big contest went from cashing for 1,000 to cashing for 500,000, like right at the end. And I was like, "Holy shit!" He called me. It's like, "Oh my god!" It was a cool moment to share. Like,
did your buddy buy you a bottle of wine or something?
He has done a lot for me. That is Gator Mab. You might see him around. That is my boy. He has always been there, has my back, talk strategy, whatever we need. He's my accountant, just a nice. full homie that is always there.
That's great. All right. Well, this was a very, very fun show. Thank you for coming on, Michael Laake. Before we head out, tell people where they can find you. It looks like you're the founder of livepokercoaching.com. Is that still going now? You give poker coaching now. Where can people find you? What are you doing?
Yeah, if you want to check that out, I do some stuff in the Tampa area and some stuff remotely if you're interested. But Value Betting ML is my Twitter handle where I handle most of my sports stuff. If you want to see me shitpost about crypto and NFTs, I at Mario Dustis on Twitter also. But that's mostly where you can find me. And other than that, Laake20 on Underdog, and good luck, motherfuckers.
Good luck, motherfuckers. All right. Thank you, Michael Laake, for coming on the show. Thank you all for hanging out with us. This has been episode 16 of Playing for Keeps. I think episode 17 coming out 2 weeks from now. We'll be having the next episode. I'm out of my drink, so I can't cheers with you. Yeah, thank you.
I love Playing for Keeps. That's my favorite shit in the world.
Oh, appreciate that. Yeah. All right. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Next episode coming up in a couple weeks. Catch you next time.